Chapter 432. Lei Xingfeng pulled Elder Thunderstorm into the courtyard, and everyone went forward to greet them. Elder Thunderstorm was no longer the irascible old man he used to be after creating his own cultivation technique. The violent thunder and lightning could no longer affect his character. Lei Xingfeng led Elder Thunderstorm to Gao Yi and said, "This is Senior Gao Yi, Heaven Monarch." Gao Yi immediately smiled and said, "No need to be so polite. Feng, you are also a Heaven Monarch. Your grandfather is also my elder." Thunderstorm was shocked. His brain was in a mess. What did that mean? After a while, he slapped his head and said, "I am old, and my ears are probably not good. A Feng is a Heaven Monarch." Lei Xingfeng said, "Yi, you will reach it soon. I found a place to cultivate in the magnetic storm mountains. There is also a cultivation technique. Yi, you are also of the thunder attribute. That is a place for thunder attribute cultivation." Gao Yi said, "You didn't hear wrongly. A Feng is a Heaven Monarch. Old master, you have profited. It is your fortune to have such a grandson." Thunderstorm hurriedly waved his hand and said, "I don't dare to call you that." What a joke! A Heaven Monarch calling him old master was something he couldn't accept. Gao Yi shook his head and said, "Old master, don't be modest. Once you cultivate in the magnetic storm mountains, I believe you will reach the Heaven Monarch realm soon. Even if you can't, you will definitely be a true Monarch realm expert. You are also a Feng Yi." Thunderstorm said, "Don't. I will call you elder brother. Consider it as me taking advantage." The seniority was suddenly in a mess. Lei Xingfeng didn't mind it. It was just a form of address anyway. He nodded at Gao Yi. Gao Yi smiled and said, "All right, consider it as me taking advantage." Thunderstorm grabbed Lei Xingfeng's hand and carefully sized it up for a moment. He suddenly laughed a few times and revealed an extremely gratified expression. He repeatedly said, "Good child, good child." After finding Thunderstorm, Lei Xingfeng could finally relax. As long as he found Lei Xingyao, he could give Thunderstorm and Lei Xingyao the right to control the secret door of the Mirror Realm. Only those who had the right to control the door could return to the Mirror Realm at any time. This would give Thunderstorm and Lei Xingyao a super shelter. If they were in danger, they could definitely escape into the Mirror Realm. Of course, there were differences in the right to control. Lei Xingfeng was the one who had the right to control. He could not only use the secret door, but he could also bring people in and out. However, the other people who had the right to control the door could only use it themselves. They could enter and leave, but they could not bring people in. They could leave, but they had to go to the secret door of the Mirror Realm. Now, there were a few people who had the right to control the door. The first was Jean Daya, followed by Tiger Love and Mad Eagle. After all, they had been with him for the longest time and were very close to him. Then there was Gao Yi. Now, that Grandpa Lei was here. Grandpa Lei also had the right to control the door. Finally, Lei Xingfeng planned to give Lei Xingyao the right to control the door. In the future, he would also give the right to control the door to his master, ancestor, and the others. He had already calculated that if he did not tell his master now, it would not mean that he would not tell him in the future. He took Grandpa Lei into the Mirror Realm and introduced Jingxia to Grandpa Lei. Then he asked Jingxia to give one of the 2 battle dolls to Grandpa Lei and the other one to Lei Xingyao. He was now strong enough, so he cared about Grandpa Lei and Lei Xingyao's safety. Thinking of Tang Gung, he felt funny. In this battle, he had lost 4 battle dolls, which were much better than Li Shi. Tang Gung must be hiding in a dark corner, cursing crazily. Thunderstorm asked, "How powerful is this thing?" Jingxia replied, "According to the ranking of strength in your world, it's between a peak monarch and a primary lord of heaven. It's quite powerful. She admitted that she couldn't defeat the battle dolls, but she had no problem escaping because her intelligence was much higher than the battle dolls. Thunderstorm laughed and said, "Well, if I have this battle doll, I won't be afraid even if I face a monarch." Jingzia said, "Seriously, of course, the premise is that you can protect yourself. If you are killed, no matter how powerful the battle dolls are, they will be useless." Lei Xingfeng had a headache. Jingzia was a puppet, and she always spoke the truth. She didn't care whether it was good or bad. She just said it directly. Thunderstorm burst into laughter. He didn't blame Jingzia because he was old enough to be muddle-headed. He said, "Haha, you are right. But don't worry, I will be stronger than the battle dolls." He said confidently. His words were quite heroic. He had never been afraid of old age, let alone a puppet. Jingzia nodded and said, "I believe you." Then she took a step back. Thunderstorm was a little curious and asked, "Why do you believe me?" Jingzia said, "Because you are a Feng's Yi. It's that simple." Her words revealed her great confidence in Lei Xingfeng. Thunderstorm also understood this. He said, "You have confidence in a phone. Good, good." He took Thunderstorm around and met the people in the mirror world. He said, "Yi, you can rest in your home in the mirror world first. When I finish my business, I will take you to the magnetic storm mountain to cultivate. That place is really a treasure for thunder cultivators." Then he took out the thunder cultivation method and said, Yi, this is the cultivation method. I have asked Jingzia to translate it. You can read it first. If you have any questions, you can ask me at any time." Thunderstorm took the Star Python record and said with emotion, "A phone, your opportunity is much better than mine. Yi benefited from it." Lei Xingfeng's face was full of smiles. He was happier to be able to help Yi than to be able to reach the Lord of Heaven. He knew very well that if Yi couldn't advance, his lifespan would be almost up. If he followed the original path and forcibly advanced, he would be very uneasy. That method was likely to cause the old man to die. Even if Lei Xingfeng gave him a lot of materials and even the super precious St. Crystal, he didn't dare to say that the old man would be able to advance smoothly. However, the magnetic Storm Mountain range was completely different. This was a successful cultivation system. There was also lightning that could assist in cultivation. The most important thing was the lightning plasma. This was a treasure that was completely different from the lightning plasma. Lightning plasma and lightning plasma, one couldn't say which one was better. However, lightning plasma was more suitable for cultivation, while lightning plasma was more suitable for use. These thoughts circled in Lei Xingfeng's mind. He smiled and said, Yi, familiarize yourself with the Star Python record first. Then I will bring you to the magnetic storm mountain, and you can cultivate directly." Thunderstorm said, "After cultivating this technique, I will be able to advance, right?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "I don't know if I will advance or not. After I cultivated this technique, I didn't encounter any bottlenecks. Instead, I directly attained the strength of a Lord of Heaven. Yes, the strength of an early-stage Lord of Heaven. In the magnetic storm mountain, I also found a special cultivation place on the opposite cliff. It's just that I can't enter it now. Perhaps I will be able to enter it after my cultivation improves a little." Thunderstorm only skimmed through it briefly. He frowned slightly and said, "Lack of materials, thunder plasma? Is it Jiangong lightning serum?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "There are similarities between the two, but they are not the same thing. Yi, don't worry. I have thunder plasma, which is enough for Yi." Thunderstorm nodded and said, "Yes, other than this, I will find a way to collect the rest. Lei Xingfeng said, No need. I have collected all of them. Just ask me if you lack anything. Thunderstorm smiled and said, That will save a lot of trouble. Gao Yi couldn't help but say, I am envious. Lei Xingfeng said, Yi, you go and rest first. We still have to return to the secret treasure space. There are some things we need to deal with. Thunderstorm waved his hand and said, Okay, you go and do your things. I still need time to read the Star Python record. He turned and walked into the room. After Lei Xingfeng was done, he could bring him to the magnetic storm mountain. With Lei Xingfeng around, he didn't have to worry about his own cultivation. Lei Xingfeng brought Gao Yi back to the secret treasure space. Jean Dia said, A phone, someone just reported that there are many people in the Heaven Alliance who want to join. Should we accept them? Heaven Alliance. Lei Xingfeng thought for a while and said, Is the Heaven Alliance the one we went to before? Xian Zhaoluan's nose turned red. Back then, he was embarrassed because of a woman. Of course, he had nothing to do with that woman. At that time, he went to the Heaven Alliance, and Lei Xingfeng accepted a few people. He said, Yes, it is the Heaven Alliance. Lei Xingfeng said, No problem. Accept those who want to join. Well, pick them out. Don't accept those with bad character. Jean Dia thought for a while and said, Okay, I will do it. Lei Xingfeng said, In the future, as long as they are cultivators and want to join, we will accept them. We have too few people. The secret treasure space is empty. After arranging the matters in the secret treasure space, Lei Xingfeng brought Gao Yi back to the mirror realm to rest. He basically lived in the mirror realm now. This was the center of his activities. It was very convenient for him to go anywhere. The transportation network formed by the mirror realm was gradually formed. It was very convenient for Lei Xingfeng to go to the outer space or return to the original continent. The next day, Lei Xingfeng returned to the secret treasure space. Jean Dia and Tiger Love had already gone out. Only Mad Eagle and Jean Depang were at home. Lei Xingfeng asked, Uncle Jean went out. Mad Eagle said with a smile, He went to the Heaven Alliance. I guess he will bring a lot of people back. Lei Xingfeng said, Well, after they come, you can screen them. Those with better qualifications can stay. The rest can cultivate and work here. I will bring those with better qualifications to the mirror realm. Mad Eagle said, No problem. Jean Depang said, A phone. There is nothing else here. I will go back to the mirror realm first. He also had control rights. However, because of his low cultivation, he couldn't control the secret treasure space. He could go in and out at any time. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, You don't have to tell me. You decide where to go. Jean Depang smiled and said, You are the boss. Of course you have to tell me. A month later, Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi returned to the camp in the outer space through the secret treasure space's secret treasure space. Although he could go back by himself, he couldn't explain why, so he still used Wu Yang's secret treasure space. Chapter 433. At this time, the camp had expanded several times. Wu Yang had brought a large number of people to the camp, including many ordinary people who were the family members of the cultivators. Many small villages had been built near the camp. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi walked all the way home. All the cultivators who saw them bowed to them. The news had already spread in the camp. As the youngest direct disciple, Lei Xingfeng had reached the Lord of Heaven level and was one of the most powerful masters in the camp. He had almost become a legend in the camp. He was the youngest, and the fastest to improve his cultivation. He was admired by everyone. When they got home, Gao Yi laughed. This is the benefit of having a high cultivation. Ha! Your status in the camp is equal to your ancestor. Lei Xingfeng shook his head and said, "Far from it. Let's go back to the mirror world. I'm going to take Yi to the magnetic storm mountains." Gao Yi said, "I don't need to go this time. I'll stay here and guard the camp. I'll go back to the mirror world when it's time for dinner." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "That's good. You stay here and help me look after the camp. It's not very safe here. If there are enemies, you can help to resist them." Gao Yi laughed. "No problem. I'm also a member of the camp." Lei Xingfeng smiled and returned to the mirror world. Thunderstorm was already waiting in the yard. Lei Xingfeng didn't waste time. He directly took Thunderstorm and Jingxia through the secret door of the mirror world and entered the hall in the magnetic storm mountains. They followed the passage to one of the rooms. All the rooms here could be used. It was conceivable that there were many thunder cultivators in the past. When Thunderstorm heard the rumbling thunder, he immediately became excited. After entering the room, he saw the door leading to the platform. The brilliance from the door illuminated the whole room. Thunderstorm took a few steps to the door and exclaimed, This is the world of thunder and lightning." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "Yes, this is the world of thunder and lightning. It's a paradise for us thunder cultivators." Thunderstorm said, "All right, you can go back now. I'll cultivate by myself." Lei Xingfeng was a little worried. "Is there anything else you need me to do?" Thunderstorm suddenly laughed and said, "Maya Feng has grown up. He can already care about Aya's cultivation. Hee hee." Lei Xingfeng blushed and said, "Yi, I'm just concerned." Thunderstorm was relieved. I know. Yi is happy. Go. Don't worry about Yi." He was an extremely experienced cultivator and had a deeper understanding of lightning than Lei Xingfeng. Even if Lei Xingfeng had some concepts from his previous life, he still couldn't compare to him. Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment. He had given all the materials that Thunderstorm could use, so he didn't need to worry. He said, "All right, Yi, I'll go back first." Bringing Jingxia with him, Xi and Feng returned to the mirror world. At this point, he could finally let out a sigh of relief. The next step was to find Lei Xi and Yao. Not only did he obtain so many precious herbs, but he also wanted Lei Xi and Yao to come to the mirror world. Only then would he feel safe. If he wanted to find Lei Xingyao, he had to find Wu Yang. Only he knew about the camps of the secret sections. This time, Lei Xingfeng went to Wu Yang's house alone. Unexpectedly, Wu Yang was not around. Chief Steward Aiba said, "The ancestor went to the master's place." Lei Xingfeng said, "Master, what's the matter?" Ai Pa Dao said, "Master is about to break through. Ancestor went to protect him." Lei Xingfeng didn't say anything. He turned around and ran. He rushed to his master Guqi's house. The yard was full of people. All the direct disciples were there. Even Yuko, who hadn't been seen in a long time, was there. He said, "How is Master?" Xian Zhaoluan said, "I don't know. They're in the backyard and won't let us in." Chi Meiyan said, "It's okay. Junior Marshal Uncle just went in." Lei Xingfeng said, "I'll go in and see." No one would stop Lei Xingfeng. His strength was ranked second in the hidden sect. Of course, this didn't include Gao Yi. Lei Xingfeng walked into the backyard. There was a temporary stone platform in the backyard. Guqi sat on it, his body flashing with light. Wu Yang stood not far away. Beside him was Tanya, who looked worried. Near the door was Feng Qinzong. The three strongest people of the hidden sect were all there, including Lei Xingfeng. All the masters of the hidden sect were present. Lei Xingfeng walked to Feng Qinzong's side. He whispered, "How is it?" Feng Qinzong shook his head. "I'm not sure yet." Wu Yang saw Lei Xingfeng come in and waved him over. Lei Xingfeng jogged to Wu Yang's side. He whispered, Founder, how is master? He really cared about his master. If his master succeeded, the hidden sect would have another supermaster. For the hidden sect, it was definitely a good thing. Wu Yong said, I can't tell yet. I've only been here for a while. Let's wait and see. Lei Xingfeng whispered, the advancement this time seems different from before. He thought of the time when Feng Qinzong advanced. It was a complicated process, and a large amount of materials were used. Now, his master only needed to meditate. The two were incomparable. Wu Yang said, it is different. It used to be 100 times more complicated. Unfortunately, the advancement this time was too sudden. I didn't even have time to discuss it with your master. Lei Xingfeng said, he probably got inspiration from the local cultivation method. If he succeeds, it will open up a new path for the other disciples. Wu Yang said, yes, as long as he succeeds, there will be countless benefits. I hope he succeeds. He was also unsure. After arriving here, everything started to spiral out of control. Fortunately, things were going in a good direction. If Gucci succeeded, there would be 3 heavenly monarchs in the family. If Gao Yi was included, there would be 4 heavenly monarchs. His strength would be unprecedentedly strong. He was also about to advance, but he was hesitating. If Gucci successfully advanced, he would be completely relieved. He could give it a shot. Lei Xingfeng stared at Gucci. After a while, he said, is this another internal cultivation? Wu Yang nodded. Yes, this path should be much better than the one we took. Lei Xingfeng nodded. We have too many levels, Wu Yang said. That can't be helped. The lack of a cultivation method will eventually lead to this. A little progress is just a title. Otherwise, how can a cultivator have the determination to improve? Lei Xingfeng sighed. Cultivating to a high level is a matter of life and death. I hope this cultivation method will be able to help master. Wu Yang said, if your master can advance or not advance, but reach the strength of a heavenly monarch, then it will prove that our initiative to migrate was worth it. Lei Xingfeng understood what his ancestor meant. If there were no bottlenecks, and he reached the strength of a heavenly monarch, then it would be much easier to increase his cultivation in the future. Wu Yang, Lei Xingfeng, Tang Ye, and Feng Qinzong sat cross-legged in 4 corners, waiting quietly. At this time, there was nothing they could do to help. They could only guard and not let anyone disturb them. After 10 days, Wu Yang remained motionless on the stone platform. However, the light on his body proved that he was still working hard. On this day, Gucci spat out his own seal. Then he started refining in a dazzling manner. Everyone knew that if you wanted to increase your cultivation base, you had to refine seals. The amount of materials needed to refine seals was terrifying. It was truly a sea of materials. The refining process took 3 days. Lei Xingfeng and the others were very attentive. Fortunately, they were all high-level cultivators. Even if they didn't eat or drink for 10 days, it wouldn't be a problem. Wu Yang came to Lei Xingfeng's side and whispered, it should be the critical moment. I feel that your master's seal has changed. Soon, it will change from the outside to the inside. At this time, we must not disturb him. Inform little Feng to patrol outside. Also, be careful of your master's explosion. It may affect the surrounding environment. If that happens, we must work together to protect the camp. Lei Xingfeng nodded in agreement. He came to Feng Qinzong's side and whispered a few words. Feng Qinzong stood up and whispered, okay, I'll go patrol. You be careful. Tang Ye looked at Lei Xingfeng uneasily, but she didn't say anything. She turned her head and stared at her husband. Feng Qinzong walked outside. Lei Xingfeng returned to his original seat and sat down. He looked at Gucci uneasily because he felt that it had been too long since he advanced. Suddenly, Gucci let out a roar. The seal above his head fell down and sank straight into his head. In an instant, a huge shockwave surged out. The power of the shockwave was so great that it was terrifying. The stone platform he was sitting on instantly turned to dust. The circular shockwave spread out rapidly. Wu Yong shouted, "Block it!" Xian Feng stood up abruptly, and with a wave of his hand, a net of electricity flew out. The shock wave hit the net of electricity, creating a la-la-la sound as Xian Feng retreated backwards, crashing into the wall of the courtyard. The wall suddenly collapsed. Xian Feng continuously sent out a few electric nets to block the attack, finally stopping the force of the attack. Wu Yong also blocked the other side. Tanya was in a more difficult situation. She could only block a small area in front of her. The rest of the area that she didn't block couldn't stop the shockwave from spreading. In an instant, a large number of houses were destroyed. Fortunately, there were 3 people blocking the shockwave. Otherwise, the entire camp would have been destroyed. Gucci stood in the pile of dust, a little dazed. He looked at his feet, then looked around. Suddenly, a bright smile appeared on his face. He said, "I think I did it." Tanya jumped up and threw herself into Gucci's arms. She kept saying, "You scared me to death. You scared me to death. I thought you were going to explode." Gucci scratched Tanya's nose and laughed. "How can you say that? Would I explode? If I did, who would accompany you?" Tanya didn't choose her words carefully. She said, "That's good, that's good. You scared me to death." Lei Xingfeng almost laughed out loud. He suddenly remembered Blackbird's catchphrase, "Scared me to death." It was pretty much the same as what Master's wife said. Wu Yang stepped forward. "Junior brother, congratulations." Gucci shook his head. "I think I'll call you Master." Wu Yang froze and couldn't help but laugh. He said, "A Feng also affected you. All right, it doesn't matter what you call me. If you want to call me that, I don't care." Lei Xingfeng suddenly laughed. Gucci said, "What are you laughing at?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Feng Qinzong, doesn't that mean I have to call you Master again?" He. Wu Yang couldn't help but laugh. That's true. In fact, some hidden sects will follow this rule. Some hidden sects won't. It depends on the choice of their respective masters. Chapter 434. Feng Qinzong rushed in. Wu Yang asked, "Is there anyone injured outside?" Feng Qinzong shook his head. "The people around have already moved away. No one is nearby." Wu Yang nodded. "And that's good. Let them rebuild the destroyed house." The house in front of Gucci's house was still there. Because Wu Yang had blocked the shockwave, most of it was blocked. Tanya was very excited. Her husband had finally stepped into the ranks of the top masters. Of course, she was overjoyed. Wu Yang was overjoyed. His face was full of smiles. Ever since his master left with the majority of the sect, the hidden sect established by Gucci had never been as strong as it was today. The hidden sect now had 4 heavenly monarchs. Most importantly, he was about to advance. However, he wouldn't stay in the camp. Before, he was worried about the safety of the hidden sect and didn't dare to leave for long periods of time. Now, with Gucci, Lei Xingfeng, Gao Yi, and Feng Qinzong, the hidden sect's strength was enough to protect itself. Gucci said, "All right, no need to keep watch over me. Wait for me to consolidate my strength. There will be no problem." Wu Yang asked, "Do you have enough materials?" Gucci said, "Should be enough. If not, I will ask for more." Wu Yang laughed. "The richest person here should be a Feng. He, if you need anything, you can ask him." He sold Lei Xingfeng out without any conscience. Lei Xingfeng laughed. "All right, since the founder personally sold me, I can only accept it. Master, what other materials do you need? Let me see if we have any in stock. If not, I will go out and look for them." Gucci looked at Lei Xingfeng with gratification. What he was most proud of was having this disciple. Not only was he sensible, but he was also worry-free and extremely respectful to his elders. He said, "A Feng, Master didn't spend so many years in vain. The materials have long been collected. Even if there are some missing materials, they have already been changed. Master won't be coming out for the next few days. You have to be responsible for the matters of the camp." Lei Xingfeng agreed and left with Wu Yong and Feng Qinzong. Wu Yong said, "I'm relaxed." "Ha ha." Lei Xingfeng said, "Grandmaster, you're usually very relaxed too." Wu Yong shook his head slightly and said, "I've never been relaxed. One wrong choice can lead to death. How can I be relaxed when there are so many disciples?" This was the first time he had voiced his worries. Feng Qinzong said, "Master, we will do our best." Wu Yong nodded. After a while, he said, "Little Feng, you should call me Grandmaster from now on." Feng Qinzong looked at Lei Xingfeng and nodded. "Yes, Grandmaster." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "You can't blame me for this." Feng Qinzong also laughed. He said, "You're already a heavenly monarch. I was going to call you Martial Uncle, but now I'm the one who's taking advantage. Hee hee, little junior brother." Lei Xingfeng didn't care about this. He laughed. "Little junior brother is favored. I don't want to be an elder. It's tiring and unrewarding." Feng Qinzong was dumbfounded. After a while, he said, "That's the reason?" Lei Xingfeng said, "What do you think?" Feng Qinzong was immediately defeated. All right, you're still the best." Wu Yong laughed. Lei Xingfeng said seriously, "Grandmaster, where did my little sister Sek go?" Wu Yong said, "I know the general direction, but I didn't go there. You want to find your little sister? You siblings are really close. Wait a few days, and then go. I'll give you a map. It shouldn't be hard to find." As long as he had the exact location, Lei Xingfeng believed that he could find it. Lei Xingfeng said, "Thank you, Grandmaster. I'll come find you in a few days." He said goodbye and left. Back home, Lei Xingfeng immediately took Gao Yi back to the Mirror Realm. The house was still lively. Hong Chen, Yan, Jean Depang, Jing Zia, and an unfamiliar young woman were there. Lei Xingfeng looked at her curiously. "Who is this?" Everyone laughed. Hong Chen shook his head. "A Feng, you're too much of a boss. She's your disciple." Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. He pointed at his nose. When did I have a disciple?" The young woman's eyes reddened. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. Lei Xingfeng was also confused. Hong Chen sighed. "I've never seen anyone like you. You took her in from the Heavens Alliance. Her name is Han Jiao. Do you remember?" Jean Depang laughed. "A Feng isn't at home much. Not to mention a disciple, even the guards at home aren't present." Everyone laughed. Lei Xingfeng thought back. It was the first time he went to Shattered Stone Plains with Xian Jiaoluan. Later on, he went to the Heavens Alliance. At that time, he was only a third ring sage. After so many years, he almost forgot. He looked at Han Jiao again and was shocked. Eighth ring sage. Han Jiao went forward and bowed. "Master." Lei Xingfeng had already realized that Han Jiao should have relied on her own strength to level up. Her cultivation was higher than Jean Depang's. He couldn't help but say, "Fatty, if you continue to be so wasteful, are you going to rely on rings to cultivate?" Jean Depang was laughing happily, but after hearing this, he wanted to cry. "A Feng, you can't hurt me like this." Lei Xingfeng said, "Look at Han Jiao. When she came, she didn't know anything. She hadn't even started cultivating. You were already a master then. Look at her now. She's even stronger than you. You're too useless." Fortunately, Jean Dia wasn't here. Otherwise, he would have scolded him. Jean Depang said, Stop, stop. A phone. If you keep talking, I won't have the face to live anymore. She suddenly said coldly, You have a big face. Jean Depang touched his face and said, Little Yen, I won't give you anything good next time. Han Jiao stared blankly at Lei Xingfeng. She didn't know what to do. Lei Xingfeng sighed. At first, he only wanted to take in an unnamed disciple. He didn't expect this girl to rely on her own efforts to improve so quickly. No wonder he never saw her. She must have been cultivating. He said, Okay, from now on, you're my first disciple. Immediately, Ishanel stepped forward and said, Congratulations. Everyone congratulated her. Han Jiao's face immediately turned red. This girl was very shy. Jean Depang laughed and said, Uncle Fatty will cook good food for you in the future. This foodie always talked about food. Lei Xingfeng took out 2 gold-grade puppets and said, Master doesn't have any guards for you at the moment. As for the other attendants, Manager AI will assign them to you. These 2 gold-grade puppets will be your guards from now on. I'll change the settings of the puppets so that they'll follow your orders. Once she became his disciple, Han Jiao would be a direct descendant. This was an earth-shattering change in status. Han Jiao was dressed very plainly. Her face was delicate and pretty. Due to her cultivation, she looked very young, about 18 or 19 years old. Moreover, she was abnormally shy, blushing before she spoke. Lei Xingfeng wasn't very satisfied with this. He believed that people who were too shy would have problems fighting strength. However, he still gave someone who was so hard-working in cultivation a chance. Han Jiao didn't expect such a huge surprise. She blushed and said, Master. Lei Xingfeng said, Since you call me master, we'll be family from now on. No need to be so polite. If you have any requests, just say it. Don't keep it in your stomach. Han Jiao's presence was very low. She lowered her head and said, Yes, master. Then she took the initiative to stand behind Lei Xingfeng, looking like an obedient girl. Lei Xingfeng said, Gold-grade puppets, also known as strongmen. They're not bad. They'll be enough to protect you. Han Jiao said, Thank you, master. Ishan was busy. He had to arrange a new residence for Han Jiao. As Lei Xingfeng's eldest disciple, Han Jiao definitely had her own residence in the Mirror Realm. Moreover, her whole family had entered the Mirror Realm. In addition, he had to provide her with a batch of supplies, including all kinds of daily necessities, grains, and meat. In other words, Han Jiao's supplies were second only to Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi. In the Mirror Realm, her supplies were ranked third, even above Jean Daya's. It could be said that she had reached the heavens in a single bound. Other than Han Jiao, the people who had been accepted together with Han Jiao were all ordinary. The highest was a true sage with 3 rings, so Lei Xingfeng naturally wouldn't accept her as a disciple. Han Jiao's potential wasn't very good, and she wasn't a cultivator with only one attribute. However, she worked very hard, and it was a miracle that she could reach her current cultivation level. This was why Lei Xingfeng was soft-hearted and accepted her as a disciple. He didn't know how much Han Jiao had suffered to cultivate to such a high level. Judging from Han Jiao's potential, it was normal for her to cultivate to 3 or 4 rings, but she had reached 8 rings. Lei Xingfeng's family didn't lack materials or supplies. As long as they worked hard, they wouldn't be stopped because of a lack of materials. However, how many people were very hardworking? Because their lives were too comfortable, many people's cultivation wasn't as good as before. The biggest example was Jean Depang. This guy spent less time cultivating and more time eating. To be more precise, he spent the most time thinking about how to cook. It was normal that his cultivation couldn't improve. In fact, Lei Xingfeng had a strong sense of danger. This place was different from his hometown. Once they left the camp in outer space, it could be said that every step was dangerous. Traps and dangers were everywhere, and it wasn't obvious on the surface. By the time they reacted, it was often too late. If they weren't strong enough to back them up, anyone below the true monarch level could accidentally die. After going out a few times, Lei Xingfeng had a clear understanding of the situation. If they hadn't been strong enough, they would have suffered a great loss when they met Tang Gung last time. This wasn't a good place. If you weren't strong enough, don't go out. Therefore, everyone was forced to improve their strength. No one wanted to live in the camp forever. Jean de Pang brought out a few large pots of fresh fruit. They were all fruit trees transplanted in the mirror realm. A batch had recently ripened. Jean de Pang was in charge of them, so he brought them out for everyone to taste. Lei Xingfeng smiled. There are quite a lot of varieties. Most of these fruit trees were transplanted from the secret treasure space. They had been collected over many years and gradually accumulated. There were quite a lot of varieties. Jean de Pang said, "There are only a few varieties. Most of them are still recovering. The transplanting time is still a bit short. They will be fine in a year or two." He was self-taught. Fruit trees were natural desserts and good for making snacks. Just like candied fruits, they needed fruit to make them. Chapter 4:35. Everyone began to fight over the fruits. Lei Xingfeng also picked up a fist-sized fruit. He didn't know much about the fruits here. Compared to the fruits in his previous world, there were more varieties of fruits here, and the taste was sweeter. He didn't look at it carefully, and just took a bite of the skin and flesh. A sweet fragrance spread in his mouth. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but say, "This fruit is not bad." Jean de Pang looked and said, "This is Zili Zi, a very good fruit." This was the first time Lei Xingfeng had heard of this name, but he didn't care. After eating one, he stopped eating and said, "During this period of time, I'll be going out. If there's anything, find a channel to deal with it. And Hong Chun and Yen can also help." Hong Chun and Yen nodded in agreement. They both knew that Lei Xingfeng was promoting his own people. Gao Yi asked, "Afeng, where are you planning to go?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I'm going to find my little sister's camp. I only know the general direction and location, so I'll need time to search." Gao Yi said, "So it's like this. Okay, I'll go with you." Lei Xingfeng nodded. "And Jingzia will stay in the camp. Jean de Pang, you have the right to enter and leave. Bring a few people and stay in my house in the camp. As for whether you stay in the camp or not, that's up to you." Jean de Pang agreed. Going through the secret door was very convenient. Although it would consume some energy crystals, Lei Xingfeng could still afford it. Lei Xingfeng hadn't been to Lei Xingfeng's camp before, so he couldn't go through the mirror world. He had to walk step by step. This was the only flaw of the mirror world. Just getting the coordinates was useless. Lei Xingfeng, the master, had to personally go and set the coordinates. It would be very convenient to go in the future, and other people with the right to control it could also enter. This continent could be said to be easy to travel, but it could also be said to be difficult to travel. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi had already been on the road for 8 days. They basically traveled during the day and returned to the mirror realm to sleep at night. They didn't feel that it was very tiring. The journey was very smooth. They didn't see a single person, nor did they see any powerful beasts. As Gao Yi walked, he said, "Sometimes this place is very strange. Sometimes you might not encounter any danger for a year, but once you do, it will give you a show of strength. I once didn't encounter any danger for 3 consecutive months, but when I was at my most relaxed, I almost fell into a trap." Lei Xingfeng asked, "What trap?" Gao Yi said, "Unknowingly, I walked into a forbidden area. What's worse is that I still didn't know, and just like that, I crashed into the restriction. Fortunately, I reacted quickly and didn't dare to continue charging, choosing instead to retreat. That time was very frightening. As soon as I retreated, the restriction activated at full force. One look, and I could tell that it was a strangulation restriction. I didn't even know if I could withstand it. Lei Xingfeng said, "That was because you were alone. If there was another person, it would be very difficult for such a dangerous situation to occur." Gao Yi smiled. That's right. I was thinking about something at the time and ignored the changes in my surroundings. Lei Xingfeng smiled. Sometimes traveling alone is more dangerous. Gao Yi said, "That can't be helped. If you have a sect to rely on, who would be willing to travel alone?" Lei Xingfeng said, "If you're at the level of a Tao Lord, even if you're alone, it shouldn't be a problem." Gao Yi said, "Tao Lords are rarely alone. They always have a group of people behind them. Of course, they usually choose to travel alone outside, mainly because they can go to extremely dangerous places. If they bring someone with them, it'll be inconvenient." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle Gao, if you become a Tao Lord, are you confident?" Gao Yi said, "I wasn't confident in the past. However, after you helped me translate the Star Python record, I'm a little more confident. The only headache is that it's very difficult to gather materials. I don't know where to find some of the things recorded in the record." Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Gao, as long as you find the right place, I'll help you find it." Gao Yi immediately smiled. He said, "When I was in the mirror world, I heard them say that you're a lucky guy. No material can stop you. As long as you find the materials, you won't return empty-handed." Lei Xingfeng scratched his head and said, "That seems to be the case." Actually, he knew the reason very well. He just couldn't say it out loud. Of course, with his current strength, it wouldn't be a big deal even if he said it out loud. However, he had always been a cautious person, so he wouldn't say it if he could. Gao Yi said, "When I heard them talk about it, I was a little confused. However, everyone said the same thing. This proves that you're very impressive and have a unique way of finding materials." Lei Xingfeng suddenly stood still. Gao Yi also stopped in his tracks. The two of them looked at each other. There were people here. However, neither Lei Xingfeng nor Gao Yi planned to avoid them. The two of them were heavenly monarchs. Unless they met a Tao monarch, they weren't afraid of anyone. To be honest, there were too few Tao monarchs. Even if they wanted to meet one, it would be very difficult. The two of them didn't avoid or hide. They just walked over. Masked men. Lei Xingfeng immediately saw that they were wearing masks. One of them ran over and quickly blocked their path. That person said, "Who are you?" "This is the mining area that we've occupied." Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng didn't pay any attention to him. Instead, they raised their heads and looked into the distance. A large area of trees had been cut down, and the ground had been dug up. It was densely packed with people. Half of them were actually ordinary people, and the other half were cultivators wearing masks. With a rough estimate, there were at least 300 people. That person saw that Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi were ignoring him. He immediately became angry and shouted, "Hey, leave this place." Gao Yi sized him up a few times and said indifferently, "Didn't your sect tell you? In this land, it's better to be a bit more restrained. Otherwise, who knows what kind of disaster it will bring to your sect." Lei Xingfeng glanced at him. He knew very well that this was just a true monarch. He said, "Interesting. They actually brought so many people here. This cost is a bit high." That person had already sensed that something was wrong. These two people were too calm. They didn't even put him in their eyes. One had to know that he was a true monarch not some 8th or 9th ring sage. In his sect, he had an extremely high status. Gao Yi said, "You know this secret door?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "I've killed many of their people in the past." That person immediately whistled when he heard that, and a few people quickly ran over. Gao Yi said, "Are their brains damaged?" The unspoken rule here was that if one met 1 or 2 people who dared to charge in without dodging, they were all people with extraordinary strength. They had to be careful when facing such people. It was either they didn't meet anyone here, or they had to be extremely careful. There were many super experts here. It was a completely different concept from the continent in the past. The masked man had just arrived here. The camp had just been set up when he discovered a vein of ore. He immediately ordered his subordinates to mine it. Actually, this kind of ore wasn't considered precious. However, in the eyes of the masked man, this was an extremely good ore. They had never been to outer space before, and were dazzled by the resources here. The 3 people came over. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi both laughed. Lei Xingfeng said, "No wonder the masked man is so arrogant. There are 4 true monarchs in total. One of them is even a peak true monarch." Gao Yi nodded and said, "Yes, there are no heaven monarch experts." Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "Even if there is a heaven monarch expert, there is no chance." He still had Jingxia and a battle puppet. Even if there was a heaven monarch, he wouldn't be a match for them. The 2 of them calmly looked at the 3 people who were flying over. For true monarchs, one of them was a peak true monarch. This strength was actually not small. 4 true monarchs could definitely deal with a heaven monarch. Of course, it couldn't be a peak heaven monarch. Gao Yi stepped forward and said, "Don't you know the rules here? You must be new." The 4 masked men surrounded them. It was no wonder that they were so confident. For true monarchs were considered quite strong in a secret sect. However, on this continent, it was indeed not enough. The peak true monarch said, "This is the place we occupied." He vaguely felt that something was wrong because he couldn't see through the 2's cultivation. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng stood still and just watched quietly. Among the 4 true monarchs, one of them obviously couldn't bear it. He stepped forward and shouted, "Get lost!" Gao Yi sighed and said, "Afeng, are they enemies?" Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Kind of. When I was young, I was chased by them. Of course, I also killed many of their people. However, I didn't know that they were from a secret sect. Well, I guess they were part of their peripheral organization." Gao Yi said, "Since they are enemies, then it doesn't matter. Let's do it." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay, let's do it then." The indifferent attitude of the 2 infuriated the 4 true monarchs. However, in the blink of an eye, the 4 of them were horrified. An enormous power erupted from the 2, suppressing them in an instant. The masked man in the lead exclaimed, "Heaven Monarch realm experts, run!" The 4 of them quickly retreated. They didn't dare to fight at all. They weren't stupid. If there was only one heaven monarch, they might be able to deal with it. However, there were 2 heaven monarchs. If they foolishly rushed forward, they would be courting death. A low-level cultivator would be at a disadvantage in a battle between 2 heaven monarchs. Once a true monarch escaped, it wasn't easy to catch up, especially with the secret sect in their bodies. It was even easier to escape. Lei Xingfeng was also dumbfounded. He didn't know which one to chase. The 4 of them escaped in different directions. If Lei Xingfeng hesitated for a moment, it would be very difficult for him to catch up. Gao Yi was also a little stunned. The other party ran too quickly. The 2 of them were just about to fight when the 4 of them escaped. He laughed involuntarily and said, "What is this?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Their reaction is very fast." Gao Yi said, "Yes, this secret sect is very cruel. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Why? Is it because they didn't fight with us?" Gao Yi said, "You see, the four of them don't even care about their subordinates. Those who stayed behind, he." Lei Xingfeng immediately understood. He nodded and said, I see. If we wanted to kill them, their subordinates wouldn't be able to live." In other words, the four of them escaped. They didn't care about the lives of their subordinates at all. Gao Yi said, "Yes, that's what I meant. This secret sect is very cruel." Chapter 436. Lei Xingfeng originally wanted to fight with them and see how many monarchs he could take on, but now he had no interest. He said, "Let's go. It's bad luck to join a secret sect like this." Gao Yi said, "I've seen a lot. Your secret sect isn't bad." Lei Xingfeng said, "What do you mean This is our secret sect. Our secret sect definitely wouldn't be like this. If it was as cold as this, I would have left long ago." Gao Yi said, "Yes, as long as you have the ability, you'll definitely leave such a cold secret sect." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go." Gao Yi said, "What about those people? Kill them?" Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "They're not a threat. There's no need to kill them. Let's leave this place." As long as they weren't a threat, he didn't have the intention to kill them all. It was meaningless. Gao Yi nodded. "Okay, let's go." He had no interest in killing the weak. For an expert, they at least had their own dignity. Killing the weak would never add a shred of glory to themselves. Of course, there were bastards and beasts among the experts. There were also many who willfully killed the innocent. There were no laws in this world. The two of them swaggered forward, directly passing through the other party's crowd and heading into the distance. They didn't pay any attention to those who were in a frenzy. About 10 days later, Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi saw a mountain range in front of them. This mountain range was very majestic. From the foot of the mountain to the top, 1/3 of the mountain range was covered in snow. Gao Yi said, "There's actually a snow mountain. I've lived here for so many years, but this is the first time I've seen such a spectacular snow mountain." Haha, good. He was an ice cultivator. So, of course, he felt a sense of familiarity when he saw the snow mountain. It was just like how Lei Xingfeng felt a sense of familiarity when he saw the lightning and thunder. Lei Xingfeng said, "The direction should be correct. Then we have to pass through this mountain range. I hope there's no great forbidden area here, or else it'll be really hard to walk." Gao Yi stared at the snow mountain for a while. He sighed and said, "There really might be a great forbidden area. It depends on whether the environment inside is bad or not." Lei Xingfeng was puzzled. If it's bad, then there's no forbidden area? Gao Yi immediately laughed and said, "You just said the opposite." Lei Xingfeng was also surprised and said, Could it be that because of the harsh environment there is a forbidden area?" Gao Yi said, "Is the magnetic storm mountain range's environment harsh? People like me don't even dare to get close, but you know very well what's in the magnetic storm mountain range." Lei Xingfeng said, "It was formed by a powerful restriction." Gao Yi said, "Without innate conditions, how can you use restrictions?" Magnetic storm mountain range. The power of restrictions is at most 10%. The rest is natural power. Therefore, the worse the environment, the more useful it is. For cultivators, if they can use the power of the environment, a bad environment is actually a good place. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but agree. It was indeed so. He still had the thoughts left over from his previous life. The so-called thoughts of ordinary people often interfered with the thoughts of this life. According to the rules of the current world, many of the thoughts and ideas of his previous life were wrong. Gao Yi said, "You don't know, but I've looked for snow mountains or extremely cold places many times. Unfortunately, I didn't find it even once. I didn't expect to find it this time. Lei Xingfeng deeply understood. Back then, in order to find the Thunderstorm mountain range, he had run to who knows how many places. The most hateful thing was that he seemed to have found it. He could even hear the sound of thunder in the distance, but when he rushed over, it had disappeared and he couldn't find anything. Lei Xingfeng said, "Okay, let's go in and take a look." Since they couldn't fly, they could only fly close to the ground. They couldn't increase their speed because they couldn't fly close to the ground. If they were careless, they might crash into something. Many times, if the ground was flat, they would rather run than fly close to the ground. Jumping and flying, the two of them quickly arrived at the foot of the mountain. It was still a dense forest. The two of them walked along the foot of the mountain and gradually felt the unique cold air of the mountain. As the terrain rose, the dense forest became short shrubs. Soon, the two of them stepped onto the snow line. Gao Yi casually squashed a pouncing leopard and laughed. "It's still very safe here." He raised his hand and was about to throw away the leopard with black spots. Lei Xingfeng said, "Give it to me." Gao Yi said, "What do you want this thing for? Meat doesn't taste good." Lei Xingfeng said, "I want the skin. This skin is thick and soft. The color is also not bad." As he spoke, he put the leopard into his hidden Luan space. Gao Yi said, "You even want this? I don't know how many I threw away back then." The two laughed as they climbed up. Gradually, Lei Xingfeng felt colder and colder while Gao Yi became more and more energetic. Lei Xingfeng said, "Why is it so cold?" Gao Yi said, "This isn't cold. Last time, you said that place was extremely cold. And what was it called again?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Henya Castle." Gao Yi said, "Yes, Henya Castle. How is it compared to here?" Lei Xingfeng immediately laughed. "It can't be compared. Hanya Castle is a place that can freeze a monarch to death. The two can't be compared." Gao Ye's eyes revealed a trace of yearning. This place was definitely a treasure for ice cultivators like him. He said, "I hope we can go there." Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "It is very convenient. When we have time, we can go back to the secret hidden space and go there directly." The secret door of the secret hidden space can be reached directly. In the future, we don't need the secret hidden space. We can go through the mirror world. Gao Yi nodded. It was fine as long as they could go. He wasn't in a hurry now. Perhaps it would be better to go after he cultivated to the peak stage of Heaven Monarch. He was still lacking a little. After crossing a mountain ridge, the two could fly close to the ground. Therefore, the accumulated snow couldn't slow down their speed. After entering the mountains, it got colder. Soon, they arrived at an ice valley. This ice valley had countless huge ice. A portion of it had melted while a portion was still standing. Therefore, it formed a maze-like terrain. Fortunately, the two didn't need to walk in the cracks of the ice. Therefore, they wouldn't get lost. They directly jumped and walked on the protruding ice crown. With jumping and flying, the two quickly skimmed through the ice valley. This ice valley was rather long and was at least a few dozen kilometers. Just as Gao Yi was advancing rapidly, the surrounding cold air was getting colder. Gao Yi didn't feel it and just felt abnormally comfortable. However, Lei Xingfeng was different. He even activated the 1,000 Leaf Silver's defense to resist the invading cold air. Lei Xingfeng said, "This isn't right. This temperature isn't right." Gao Yi just soared up and landed on a giant ice crown. In an instant, a white light suddenly appeared and shot towards Gao Yi. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "Be careful!" Gao Yi's body suddenly sank. He didn't land on the ice crown, but directly fell into the cracks of the ice. Lei Xingfeng followed and jumped down. The white light pierced through and hit a towering ice pillar. In the blink of an eye, the ice pillar collapsed. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng landed in the cracks of the ice. The two of them looked at each other. Gao Yi said, "Forbidden ground." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "It should be a forbidden ground. However, I don't know if it's a big one or a small one." Gao Yi said, "That's hard to say. We should be at the edge of the forbidden ground and surrounded by restrictions." Lei Xingfeng said, "Should we go around it?" Gao Yi was a little hesitant. He said, "This forbidden ground. This is the first time I've seen it. Should we explore it?" Generally speaking, forbidden grounds that can survive until now are very precious, especially ones that still have remnants of offensive restrictions. This also means that the restrictions here are relatively complete. There will be very few cultivators who can enter. Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, I'll leave the coordinates of this place. Let's go around it first. When I find my sister, we'll explore it again." Gao Yi said, "That's fine. Let's go around it." The two of them no longer dared to jump and fly randomly. They obediently retreated through the cracks in the ice. One time, because he couldn't determine the direction, Gao Yi even flew up to the top of the ice. He only took a glance before he was forced back down by a beam of white light. He said, "We've been targeted. Fortunately, I saw the right direction and went this way." They had no choice but to leave the ice valley. The two of them returned to the beginning of the ice valley and started to check the terrain again. They were surrounded by giant snow peaks. The two of them went to the back of a snow mountain before they dared to climb up. They slowly arrived at the top of the snow peak. The biting cold wind was howling. Lei Xingfeng had no choice but to expand the Thousand Leaves Silver's defense. Tiny electric arcs jumped on his body and quickly dispersed the cold. He said, "This cold, if I was still a ninth ring sage, I probably wouldn't be able to withstand it." Gao Yi said, "Yes, this wind is a little strange. It has an extremely cold taste. It's so comfortable." His face was a little pale, but it was obvious that he was enjoying it. Gao Yi sighed. "If we found this place earlier, I would probably be a peak heavenly monarch. What a pity." Lei Xingfeng said, "A world with compatible attributes is a cultivator's paradise. However, it's too hard to find." Gao Yi said, "I want to set up a coordinate here. This will be a point for cultivation in the future. Yes, if I have time, I will continue to find a more suitable place for cultivation." Lei Xingfeng nodded. Gao Yi quickly returned to the mirror realm and came back in about 10 minutes. He smiled and said, "It's done. This might be one of my cultivation spots in the future." The two of them laughed as they rushed down the mountain. To them, going up and down the mountain was easy. There wasn't much difference in speed. Soon, the two of them arrived at the foot of the mountain. Gao Yi said, "We can't keep going. Otherwise, we'll bump into the forbidden area again. If we follow this canyon, we might be able to go around it." Lei Xingfeng said, "This is a world of ice and snow. There aren't any plants here. It's also abnormally cold. No one will come here." Gao Yi smiled. "That's hard to say. The weirder a place is, the more cultivators want to go there." Lei Xingfeng said, "Other than the cold, there's nothing else here." Gao Yi suddenly pulled Lei Xingfeng and said, "You're wrong." Boom, boom, boom. The entire canyon began to shake violently. Lei Xingfeng's heart tightened. He said, "Avalanche." In fact, he wasn't afraid of an avalanche because he could fly. Even if an avalanche came down, it wouldn't be a threat to the two of them. Gao Yi said, "No, it's not an avalanche." The terrain here was rather strange. The ground was made of an unknown thickness of ice. Occasionally, one could see a few cracks. They were basically bottomless. On both sides were cliffs made of blue ice. The snow on the ground couldn't be preserved. It was all swept away by the wind. There was only snow in the small cracks. Of course, there wasn't much snow in the big cracks. Chapter 437. Crack, crack, crack. After the rumbling, the ice cliffs on both sides cracked. Lei Xingfeng said, "What is that?" Gao Yi said seriously, "If I'm not wrong, that should be an ice beast puppet. I've heard people talk about it before, but they didn't elaborate. I've been looking for ice beast puppets, which means that this is a forbidden area for ice element cultivators." Lei Xingfeng laughed bitterly. "We still ended up in the forbidden area." Although Gao Yi was old, he still had a mouth full of white teeth. He grinned, and his white teeth flashed under the reflection of the ice. It was absolutely dazzling. "That's right, we should be in the outer area," and we encountered an ice beast puppet that was lying in ambush. "Hee hee, our luck is not bad. If we don't kill it, it will be hard to escape." Lei Xingfeng said, "That's not necessarily true. We can return to the mirror realm." Gao Yi said, "Why don't you try and see if you can return?" Lei Xingfeng looked at the falling ice cliffs and said, "Yes, this is just the outer area. Let me try." His body gradually became transparent, then solidified, and then became transparent again. After a full 10 seconds, he disappeared. Soon, Lei Xingfeng returned. He frowned. The return speed is extremely slow. As long as we have time, we can still return. What's going on? Gao Yi said, "Very simple. Even if you want to escape under the suppression of the restriction, you will need to spend time. This is the most dangerous time, so you need someone to cover you." Lei Xingfeng shook his head. "Cover? In the forbidden area. Whoever covers will die." "Oh, luckily I still have my Iron Beast puppets." He had a bunch of Iron Beast puppets, silver and gold. Of course, he also had powerful puppets like Jingxia. Of course, he wouldn't use Jingxia unless he had no other choice. The price would be too high. Gao Yi said, "Yes, this is a good idea. With something to cover you, the chances of escaping are high." This time, the two of them didn't plan on running because they were both interested in the Ice Beast puppet and wanted to see it for themselves. The two of them were skilled and daring, so they didn't mind the appearance of the Ice Beast puppet. Of course, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to release the others. He only summoned Jingxia and asked, "Jingxia, have you seen the Ice Beast before?" Jingxia was a little confused. "What Ice Beast puppet?" Then she saw the Ice Beast puppets that had broken free from the ice cliff. She couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, "You guys actually ran to Ilu Peak?" As she spoke, she looked around and said, "The outer perimeter." Lei Xingfeng scratched his head. Jingxia did not seem to understand the situation. He said, "If you know the weakness of the Ice Beast puppet, tell us." Jingxia said, "There is nothing powerful in the periphery. They are all low-level Ice Beast puppets. They are no threat to you." Lei Xingfeng stared into the distance and said, "If there are a lot of them," Gao Yi said, "isn't this number a little scary?" The ice surface was densely packed with Ice Beast puppets. The Ice Beast puppets were completely different from the strongman. They were not humanoid puppets, but completely beast-like. There were 3 types of them. One was a wolf, one was a bear, and one was a crocodile with a long tail and a long mouth. The largest one was the bear form, while the smallest was the wolf form. Even the wolf form was 4 meters long. Xian Feng had never seen such a large wolf before. Its entire body was made of white ice, and when it ran, it made kacha sounds as if it was a rusty machine. As it ran, the kacha sounds became smaller, and its jerky movements became smoother. Hundreds of Ice Beast dolls charging over at the same time was quite frightening. Of course, these were not humans, but Ice Beast dolls made of solid ice. The feeling of charging over at the same time was even more frightening. Jingxia said, "Don't get surrounded by them." Also, don't fly. It's best to release some steel beast puppets and large spiders to form a natural barrier. It was a very calm suggestion. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Okay." He immediately released a few hundred steel beast puppets and a dozen large spiders to form a defensive line. Lei Xingfeng said, "Come on, Uncle Gao. Let's move around a bit. It's too cold here. It might be a good idea to fight." Gao Yi laughed and said, "Then let's do it." He took a few steps forward and came behind the steel beast puppets. Lei Xingfeng said, "Jingzia, you command the steel beast puppets." Jingzia nodded and said, "Don't worry. I will try my best to reduce the losses." In fact, Lei Xingfeng did not understand how Jingzia naturally took over the command. Jingzia's command was much better than his. Moreover, she commanded without any connection. Lei Xingfeng was very relieved. As for the doubts, he did not care at all. In any case, as long as Jingzia was on his side, it was fine. At first, the ice beast puppets were very slow, but gradually they became faster and faster. Lei Xingfeng's thousand leaves silver defense suddenly emitted a dazzling brilliance. He activated the defense with all his strength and then went to the front. Gao Yi laughed bitterly and followed. Lei Xingfeng's hand held a huge illusory ghost head broadsword and said, "Uncle Gao, you left. I'll go right." Gao Yi said, "Good. It's been a long time since we fought in the forbidden area. Haha, finally, I have a companion." He stared at the ice beast puppets that were flying over and let out a strange cry. Lei Xingfeng could not wait any longer. He raised the ghost head broadsword in his hand and also let out a roar and directly rushed out. The ice beast puppets were less than 200 meters away from the two of them. They could clearly see the ice shards on the ice beast puppets. Lei Xingfeng said, "These things aren't powerful, but there are too many of them. It is very annoying." Gao Yi said, "This is using numbers to delay the enemy. Fortunately, there isn't anyone in the forbidden ground. Otherwise, it would be very troublesome." Lei Xingfeng said, "There are bear-shaped ice beast puppets at the back. These things don't seem to be good at fighting." The bear-shaped ice beast puppets were more than 4 meters tall. They looked like moving blocks of ice. Their bodies were blue, and they walked very clumsily. There were about 30 of them. Although there were only 30 of them, their aura was more powerful than the previous 2 groups of ice beast puppets. Their large ice crystal feet stepped on the ice, creating loud tremors. Gao Yi said, "We have to kill them. Otherwise, they won't let us go." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's kill them." He raised his sword and rushed forward. Gao Yi said, "All right, let's kill them." Because the bear-shaped ice beast puppets were relatively slow, the 2 of them had the idea of roaming around. Jingzia commanded the steel puppets to fight against the large metal spiders. It was obvious that the steel puppets were inferior to the large metal spiders. This was especially true for the ice-type ice beast puppets. They were incomparably cold, causing the steel puppets and the large metal spiders to be much slower. At this moment, Lei Xingfeng was facing a large bear-shaped ice beast puppet. With a thunderous sound, he slashed down with his sword. The defense of the bear-shaped ice beast puppet was higher than that of the wolf-shaped ice beast puppet. Lei Xingfeng's sword didn't shatter it. Instead, it shattered one of the bear-shaped ice beast puppet's shoulders. However, this didn't cause it to lose its ability to move. The ice beast puppet suddenly pounced. Lei Xingfeng quickly retreated. His speed was as fast as lightning, and he slashed down with his sword again. With a loud boom, the ice beast puppet's large bear head exploded. Following the shattering of the ice beast puppet, a large amount of cold air rose. A layer of white cold mist slowly spread out. This bone-chilling cold forced Lei Xingfeng to strengthen his defense. Thousand Leaf Silver's phantom image was filled with crackling electric arcs. The scorching heat quickly drove away the cold air. Lei Xingfeng's body was covered in layers of white mist. He was like boiling water. After coming into contact with the cold air, he even let out a slight sizzling sound. Gao Yi had already changed his battle strategy. Layers of cold air floated around his body, but this cold air was even colder and more tyrannical. As long as he got close to the bear-shaped ice beast doll, the moment the cold air touched the ice beast doll, it would actually cause the ice beast doll's movements to become sluggish. Then, with a light slap, Gao Yi would shatter the ice beast doll. His speed was extremely fast, even faster than X-Ion foam. When Lei Xingfeng broke through the encirclement, Gao Yi was already calmly watching the show. Chapter 438. Lei Xingfeng panted and said, "Uncle Gao, we still have to kill our way back." Gao Yi said, "Just take Jingxia back. As for those steel dolls, they should be pretty much dead by now." Lei Xingfeng thought about it and agreed. There was almost no benefit to fighting with the ice dolls through the mirror realm. As long as there were people on his side, Lei Xingfeng could control them. Therefore, he took Jingxia into the mirror realm. As for the steel dolls and metal spiders, there were not many left. He gave them up without hesitation and left them to attract the ice dolls. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng immediately ran along the ice canyon, shaking off the ice dolls. The road ahead was smooth. They couldn't fly here, so Gao Yi said, "Don't look at the sides. There are definitely restrictions there. We can only go forward. This is the scary part of the forbidden area. It's hard to go back. Fortunately, you have the mirror realm. Once you enter a desperate situation, you can easily retreat." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to run around like this." The ice canyon was very long. Fortunately, there were no more ice dolls. The two ran for about 20 minutes and reached the other end of the canyon. They turned a corner and reached the bottom of the canyon. Lei Xingfeng stopped and stared blankly ahead. Gao Yi also had a shocked expression. The Palace of Ice. The palace was completely made of ice. It was over 100 meters tall and was stacked on top of each other. There was a faint layer of fog that made the entire ice palace appear and disappear. The whistling sound of the wind drifted around the ice palace, making waves of whimpering sounds. It gave people a feeling of extreme desolation. After a while, Lei Xingfeng said, "There's no trace of a human's aura. It's like an ice tombstone." Gao Ye's face was full of shock and ecstasy. He muttered to himself, "I thought we were in the periphery. We're actually in the core area of the forbidden area." The two of them were about 700 meters away from the ice palace. In front of the ice palace was a blue ice surface with wisps of mist rising from it. From time to time, a gust of wind would blow past and instantly sweep away the rising ice mist. Lei Xingfeng pointed at the flat and wide ice surface and said, "Could it be a trap?" Gao Yi shook his head. "I don't know, but you should have a way to probe." Lei Xingfeng nodded. He raised his hand and released two steel puppet beasts. "Let's step back and see what we will encounter." Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng quickly retreated to the bend in the canyon. Only then did Lei Xingfeng command the steel doll beast to move forward. The two steel mannequins stepped forward, their heavy metal feet stepping on the ice, producing dull sounds. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi hid in a corner, watching the steel mannequins go deeper and deeper. Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Gao, what do you think will happen?" Gao Yi shook his head. "I really can't guess. The forbidden area is dangerous. There are all kinds of strange things. It's simply unimaginable." When the two steel mannequins had walked a third of the distance, the whistling of the wind suddenly became louder. That sharp whistling sound forced Lei Xingfeng to use the 1,000-leaf silver to protect his ears. The extremely heavy steel mannequins trembled in the wind. It could be seen that the steel mannequin's pace had clearly slowed down. Lei Xingfeng thought for a while, "What a strong wind! If it were me, I wouldn't be able to stand." Gao Yi said, "You can resist it, but it will be very difficult. Look at the steel mannequins. Look at their bodies." A layer of ice crystals condensed on the steel mannequins' bodies. The condensed ice was quickly blown away. Then it froze again and was blown away again. The steel mannequins' originally dark bodies had a layer of metal polished off. As they moved forward with difficulty, they actually started to shine. Lei Xingfeng was dumbfounded. He never knew that the wind could be as sharp as a knife. It could forcibly cut off a layer of metal. Gao Yi laughed bitterly and said, "What a perverted wind! I don't even know if I can withstand it." Lei Xingfeng said, "We should be able to withstand it. If it's just the wind, we can withstand it. But I think it's not just the wind." Ding, ding, concentrated clinking sounds rang out. Gao Yi said, "You were right. It's not just the wind. There are also ice crystals in the wind." The finger-sized ice crystals came with the wind. For some unknown reason, the ice crystals in the wind actually shot towards the steel mannequins. At a distance of more than 10 meters, the two steel mannequins' bodies seemed to be inlaid with countless diamonds. Under the reflection of the ice, specks of light shone. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. It could actually shoot directly into steel. This strength was too terrifying. Lei Xingfeng thought of the magnetic storm mountain range. The perverted lightning and thunder were simply terrifying to the extreme. Gao Yi said, "It's fine. This is actually easier to withstand. The more difficult thing to withstand is the extreme cold brought by the wind. It's still fine for me, but it's hard for you to withstand it." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Yeah, it's hard for me to withstand the extreme cold brought by the wind." Gao Yi said, "I think as long as any one of us goes over, it means that the others can go over as well." Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and immediately understood Gao Yi's meaning. He said, "Use the mirror world." Gao Yi laughed and said, "That's right. Use the mirror world. No matter if it's you or me, we can use the mirror world to cross over." The two steel mannequins were still struggling to walk forward. The originally sturdy and heavy steel mannequins had become much thinner. One of them couldn't move its arms at all, and its body was abnormally stiff. It walked very mechanically, but its speed was already extremely slow. It took a while before it could take a step. The other one was slightly better, but that was only because its companion was blocking it. With great difficulty, the two steel mannequins finally reached the center, and a shocking scene appeared. A palm-sized ice blade appeared along with the wind and quickly merged into a gust of wind, fiercely slashing towards the two steel mannequins. In the extreme cold, anything would become hard, but at the same time, it would become brittle. When these ice blades whistled along with the wind and gathered to slash at the two steel mannequins, the moment the dense sound of impact could be heard, Lei Xingfeng bitterly smiled and said, "It's over." Gao Yi said, "Yeah, we can't block it anymore." Boom, boom. Two crisp sounds rang out, and the steel mannequins were instantly shattered. In less than 10 seconds, the steel fragments that fell on the ice were swept away by the wind. The entire ice surface was immediately clean, and no traces could be seen at all. The strangest thing was that the gust of wind suddenly stopped, and the entire ice surface calmed down. Lei Xingfeng said after a while, "Damn it, fierce." Gao Yi said, "With the strength of a true monarch, it might not be possible, but I believe that with the strength of a heavenly monarch, it's definitely possible." I'll try, you wait. Lei Xingfeng said, let's try again. I'll use a silver mannequin to try. Gao Yi said, it's no use. The attacks from behind will only get stronger, and the mannequins won't have the ability to adapt. Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment, then took out a huge steel shield and said, use this. If something goes wrong, immediately return to the mirror world. We don't have to risk our lives. Gao Yi took the shield. This shield was the steel mannequin's weapon. It was as thick as 2 fingers and could completely cover Gao Yi, blocking the ice crystals and ice blades that appeared just now. As for what they would encounter later, they could only adapt according to the situation. Lei Xingfeng said, be careful. The reason why he didn't insist on going himself was because he didn't have the confidence to resist the cold. Gao Yi was an ice elemental and had a natural immunity to the cold. He shouldn't be frozen stiff. Gao Yi held the shield and walked over step by step. Miraculously, when Gao Yi had walked a third of the way, the wind began to blow violently, producing whistling sounds. Gao Ye's entire body was enveloped in a white brilliance, and a layer of ice had formed on the shield in his hand. He walked rather easily, much more easily than the steel mannequin. Soon, Gao Yi began to taste the ice crystals. Following the violent wind, the ice crystals were like bullets madly shooting at him. Ding, ding, ding sounds could be heard incessantly. Lei Xingfeng watched nervously. He saw that the huge shield seemed to be embedded with a layer of diamond crystals. Gao Yi suddenly shook his arm, and the layer of ice on the surface and the ice crystals that were shot at him shattered and fell. Immediately after, another layer of ice appeared. This wasn't ice brought about by the environment, but ice that Gao Yi had specially condensed on the surface of the shield to strengthen the shield's defense. Gao Yi continued to walk forward with ease. From this point, it could be seen that Gao Ye's strength was rather strong. The wind and ice blades converged into a stream and crashed over with a loud bang. The layer of ice on the shield was instantly swept away, but Gao Yi didn't care. He continued to walk forward quickly. That enormous cold was simply unable to shake his footsteps. He watched as the shield became brighter and brighter. When the ice blades hit the shield, the entire shield was already dented and uneven. Gao Yi raised his hand and threw out the smashed shield. In an instant, the stream of ice blades converged on his defense. With a low roar, Gao Ye's body emitted a dazzling white light. When the stream of ice blades hit his defense, they actually disappeared without a sound. The most peculiar thing was that when the stream of ice blades disappeared into the white light, the violent wind suddenly stopped. It was as if Gao Yi didn't exist at all. Lei Xingfeng watched as Gao Yi walked step by step across the plaza. Suddenly, Lei Xingfeng understood in his heart. This was because he recalled his experience in the magnetic storm mountain range. Thunder attribute cultivators were like fish in water in the magnetic storm mountain range. In that case, Gao Yi, an ice attribute cultivator, also had a great advantage here. Would he be recognized as one of their own? When Gao Yi reached the entrance of the ice palace, that strange violent wind didn't appear again. Furthermore, there were no other attacks. Lei Xingfeng immediately confirmed that Gao Yi was considered one of their own by the Forbidden Land. One of the ice palace's doors had already collapsed. Gao Yi turned his head and made a hand gesture, indicating for Lei Xingfeng to wait for a moment. He directly stepped into the ice palace. After a moment, Gao Yi had already reached Lei Xingfeng's side through the realm of mirrors. He said, "All right, if you go through the realm of mirrors, I reckon that you won't be able to pass through this plaza. Other than the people of the Forbidden Land, I reckon that it will be very difficult for anyone to pass through this plaza, unless you're strong enough to withstand the attacks of the entire restriction." Lei Xingfeng stood at the entrance and waited. After a moment, he heard Gao Ye's voice. "Come in. There's nothing here." After stepping through the collapsed ice palace's doors, Lei Xingfeng raised his head and looked up. The roof of the ice palace had long since shattered. From the ground, he could see through the collapsed roof and see the towering ice cliff. Lei Xingfeng said, "The House of Ice." Chapter 439. Gao Yi said, "That's not pure ice." Lei Xingfeng said, "Not pure ice? Then what is it?" Gao Yi said, "It's been refined. It has some properties of ice, but it won't melt even under the sun. It's also much tougher than ice." Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "How do you know that?" Gao Yi patted his head and said, "After all, I'm of the ice attribute. I just need to touch it with my hands to know that it's definitely not ice. I also know clearly how to use it." Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, this is your benefit." The two of them walked inside while talking and laughing. As soon as they passed through a corridor, they saw a 3-meter-tall ice sculpture. It looked like an ice sculpture, but they knew it wasn't made of ice. The two of them didn't pay much attention to it. They planned to go around the ice sculpture and continue moving forward. When they were less than 10 meters away from the ice sculpture suddenly moved. Kacha, 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 kacha. Ice dolls. The two of them quickly retreated. The ice dolls here and the ice beast dolls were two completely different concepts. The ice beast dolls weren't much of a threat, but the ice dolls were. After such a long time of exploration, the two of them knew that the ice dolls and ice dolls from the forbidden area were different. The ice dolls and ice dolls were generally used for battle or were similar to human dolls. The ice dolls were more advanced and had stronger combat power. As for intelligent dolls like Jingxia, they were very rare. Even in the forbidden area, people like her were relatively rare. The ice doll walked down from the pedestal, making cracking sounds. It stared at Gao Yi. After a while, it said, "Are you a lord from the palace?" Gao Yi said, "Yes." He would be a fool to say no. The ice doll said, "My lord, please give me your orders." Gao Yi said indifferently, "Follow me from now on." The ice doll said, "Yes, my lord." Lei Xingfeng's mouth was wide open. After a while, he said, "What the F***ck, this works too?" Gao Yi couldn't hide the smile on his face. He said, "Why not?" Lei Xingfeng lamented, "Sai, I don't know how much effort it took me to get a doll, but you got one just by saying a few words. This is unfair." Gao Yi immediately laughed out loud and said, "This is what it means to have a strong character." Lei Xingfeng said, Yes, Uncle Gao is mighty. Uncle Gao is strong." Gao Yi was very proud of himself. He said, "You're not bad either. You have a smart puppet like Jingxia. I wonder what this ice puppet is like." He turned his head and asked, "What kind of puppet are you? Do you have a name?" The ice puppet replied, "Sir, I'm a combat puppet. I don't have a name." Gao Yi shook his head in disappointment. He knew that this was not an intelligent puppet. He said, "You'll be called Iceman from now on. Just follow me." The Iceman said, "Yes, Darren." He walked to stand behind Gao Yi and said, "Darren, I need ice crystals." His energy was about to run out. Gao Yi said, "Wait." I said, "Yes, sir." Lei Xingfeng said, "Ice crystals?" Gao Yi said, "I've never seen this thing before. It's probably something similar to the sky divination crystal." Lei Xingfeng asked, "Iceman, can the sky divination crystal be used?" Iceman said, "Darren, it can't." Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, then let's see if there are any here. If there aren't, then Iceman is useless." Gao Yi said, "Well, let's look for it." Lei Xingfeng said, "Iceman, where are the ice crystals here?" Iceman said, "Darren, in the ice crystal warehouse." Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng were overjoyed. Gao Yi said, "Take us there." Iceman did not refuse. In fact, he was more anxious than Gao Yi. If there was no energy to provide him, he would not be able to move. To Iceman, no energy was equivalent to death. The two silently followed Iceman. With Iceman leading the way, the two relaxed. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Our luck is really good." He guessed that because Gao Yi was of the ice attribute and had a high level of cultivation, Iceman probably thought that he was one of them. Soon, they arrived at the bottom of the ice cliff. The ice palaces were built along the ice cliff, but the palaces on the ice cliff didn't have any passageways to go up. If they flew into the air, they could see the layers of ice palaces extending up the ice cliff. The distance between each layer was about 40 to 20 meters. However, this was an absolute no-fly zone. Anyone who dared to fly would definitely be attacked. Iceman came to the bottom of the ice cliff and stood still. Then he looked at Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng. Gao Yi said, "Go up." Iceman said, "Darren, go first." Gao Yi suddenly had a headache because this was a vertical ice surface. There was no way to go. Lei Xingfeng said, "You lead the way." Iceman's gaze was still fixed on Gao Yi. He was Iceman's master. Gao Yi reacted quickly. He nodded and said, "You lead the way." When Iceman heard Gao Yi's instructions, he immediately reached out and patted the ice wall. Then he stepped up. An amazing scene appeared, only to see a thick white mist appear, and then quickly condense into an ice slab under Iceman's feet. And Iceman's foot just fell, followed by another cloud of mist, just falling on Iceman's other foot. Lei Xingfeng hurriedly said, "Keep up." The two followed Iceman up one after the other. Lei Xingfeng kept looking down. They had walked up about a dozen ice steps, and then the ice plate at the bottom turned into mist and dissipated. Lei Xingfeng was secretly amazed. If it weren't for Iceman leading the way, it would be very difficult to go up to the palace on the ice cliff. Turning around, Iceman had already stepped on the platform outside the palace. Gao Yi and Lei Xingfeng followed him on the platform. At a glance, the mountains were surrounded by white snow, and the whistling of the wind came from time to time. What was strange was that there was no wind on the platform, and the whole platform was very cold. The palace on the ice cliff was one floor after another. Lei Xingfeng and the others went up to the second floor. The first floor was under the corner of the ice cliff, and the second floor was the platform where they stood. The platform was long and narrow, extending horizontally along the ice cliff. Behind the platform was the palace. Of course, the palace was hidden in the ice cliff, revealing only the outer buildings of the palace, such as huge doors and pillars, and various exquisite ice sculptures. These ice sculptures were real ice sculptures, not puppets. The entire palace and the ice cliff were pale blue, reflecting a cold face. Iceman didn't stop and continued to walk along the left side of the platform. Soon, he left the palace gate and came to the other side of the platform. It was still the ice cliff. He slapped the ice cliff hard and then stepped up. The same ice mist quickly emerged and quickly formed an ice plate. Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's just follow. I've already recorded this place. Even if we don't use this passage, we can still come back." Gao Yi originally planned to let Iceman stay for a while so that he could explore the ice palace, but when he heard Lei Xingfeng's words, he immediately changed his mind and said, "Okay, let's follow." He was looking forward to it more and more. He didn't expect to receive an ice puppet here. This was a big gain. Now, what he was looking forward to most was to find an exclusive cultivation technique. This was the foundation of his life. The palace on the ice cliff had a total of 7 floors. Above, it was still a towering ice cliff. They didn't know how high it was. When they were at the ice square at the bottom, they didn't feel that it was very high. However, when they reached the 5th floor, Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi couldn't help but sigh. They didn't know how much manpower and material resources were used to build this ice palace. Just the platform was amazing. After reaching the 5th floor, Iceman no longer continued to go up. Instead, he walked towards the palace gate and said, "There should be ice crystals here." Iceman came to a side door beside the gate. He reached out and pressed the light blue door. A moment later, a white light flashed, and the door turned into a white mist. Then it dissipated, and Iceman walked in. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi hurriedly followed. With a guide, everything was easy. Gao Yi whispered, "I'm not sure if I can break through this gate." The side door was an ice tunnel. Iceman walked forward. It could be seen that Iceman was extremely familiar with this place. After a while, they entered an ice room. This room had tables and chairs made of ice, as well as a few random things that weren't worth money. Xian Feng and Gao Yi searched for a bit. The two of them glanced at each other, knowing that there wasn't anything worth attacking. Iceman paused for a moment, then walked to the wall on the right and reached out to press it. In an instant, a door appeared. This door was extremely secretive. If it hadn't been opened by Iceman, Gao Yi, and Lei Xingfeng wouldn't have known about it. Iceman walked in, and Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi followed. It was another passage. Not far away, there was a fork in the road. Iceman didn't stop at all, and went straight to the left passage. All the way down, there were 2 forks in a row. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi couldn't help but look at each other. This place was like a maze. If they were to explore it, it would probably take more than a few days. From the small passage, they entered the large passage. Soon, Iceman stopped at a point and reached out to press on the ice wall of the passage. Another door appeared. Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but curse. This was too much. If a stranger entered here, it would definitely be painful. In a huge room, there was a 7-meter-long pool in the middle. It was full of light blue liquid. Iceman stood by the pool and said, "It's here." Gao Yi stared blankly at the pool and said after a long while, I'm F** King Rich." Lei Xingfeng said, "What is this?" Gao Yi said, "Ice marrow liquid." "This is F** King ice marrow liquid." Ha ha. He lost his composure and laughed. Lei Xingfeng suddenly understood that this thing might be like thunder plasma, which had a huge effect on attribute cultivators. He said, "But where are the ice crystals?" Gao Yi said, "It's under the ice marrow liquid. Those condensed crystals. Haha, this is so cool." Lei Xingfeng said, "Well, this should be the treasure of an ice attribute cultivator." He gradually understood that perhaps every attribute cultivator had their own most precious treasure. This ice marrow liquid was estimated to be of great benefit to ice attribute cultivators, just like when he came into contact with thunder plasma. Iceman said, "I need ice crystals." Without Gao Ye's authorization, he could never get the ice crystals at the bottom of the pool. Chapter 440. Gao Yi said, "Take as much as you need." At this moment, he was very generous. Iceman bent down and reached into the pool. The blue ice marrow liquid in the pool was not deep, about 1.5 feet. The bottom was full of finger-thick ice crystals, densely piled at the bottom of the pool. When Iceman's arm reached into the pool, an amazing scene appeared in an instant. A layer of frost crept up Iceman's arm, followed by a layer of icy mist. Iceman quickly scooped up 2 ice crystals and immediately retracted his arm. His arm could no longer bend, and a layer of faint white light appeared on his arm. After a moment, the chill was finally dispelled. Lei Xingfeng clicked his tongue and said, "Damn, this ice marrow liquid is so cold." Gao Yi said, "If we reach in, we'll freeze in an instant. If we can't break free, then we're done for." Lei Xingfeng said, "You can't do it either?" Gao Yi said, If I don't have any defenses, I can't do it either. However, I'm fine now because I know how to deal with it. Lei Xingfeng said, "How will you deal with it?" Gao Yi laughed mischievously and said, "It's very simple. You can do it too." Lei Xingfeng did not understand and asked, "How?" Gao Yi took out a container. It was a crystal bottle with a large belly and a small mouth. There was an extremely simple seal engraved on it. He said, "It's very simple. Just don't touch the ice marrow liquid." Xian Feng had similar bottles, and he had a lot of them. They were necessary to store some special liquids. In the past, normal bottles could be used to store water or wine, as well as some special liquids, but after arriving in the outer space, they discovered that some of the liquids here couldn't be stored in normal bottles, for example, lightning liquid and plasma. If there wasn't a small restriction, the moment a normal bottle came in contact with it, it would immediately turn into nothing. Gao Yi said, "You can also collect some. This stuff is very rare. Who knows when you'll need it?" Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "Of course. I won't let it go." The two of them started to fill the bottles with the ice marrow liquid. Lei Xingfeng only took 10 big bottles before stopping. He did not need to take more. However, he was prepared to collect more ice crystals. Iceman threw the 2 ice crystals into his mouth and swallowed them directly. In an instant, his whole body was cold. After standing for a while, the chill on his body gradually weakened. It can be seen that he has become much more powerful. The pond of ice marrow liquid, as well as the layer of ice crystals at the bottom, was completely cleaned up. It took the two of them more than half a day. Gao Ye's face was full of smiles, unable to conceal his joy. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle Gao, do you know how to use the ice marrow liquid?" Gao Yi immediately revealed an awkward expression. He said, "The cultivation technique I obtained is not an exclusive ice-type cultivation technique." Perhaps there is one here. However, we don't have time to continue exploring. Let's find your little sister first. Lei Xingfeng thought for a moment and said, "Okay, we'll leave this place for later exploration." This time, we were able to find the ice marrow liquid and ice crystals. The harvest is not small. Uncle Gao also obtained Iceman. Let's leave this place. Gao Yi said, "Iceman, do you know the way out?" Iceman said, "Yes, I know the way out." This was the advantage of having a local puppet. There was no need to run around randomly. There were all kinds of strange restrictions everywhere in the forbidden area. With the puppet leading the way, the restrictions were no longer a problem. Exiting from the ice palace, Iceman took the two of them down to the bottom floor, turned around a few times, followed a passage, and soon came to the underground. This was a huge ice cave with a secret door made of ice in the middle. Iceman said, "We need ice crystals." Gao Yi said, "How many?" Iceman said, "Just 1 piece." Gao Yi handed him an ice crystal and said, "Can you activate it?" Iceman said, "No need to activate it. Just insert the ice crystal. This is a one-way secret door that can directly leave the ice palace." Gao Yi said, "Okay." Iceman inserted the ice crystal into the secret door. Suddenly, a layer of light appeared in the secret door. After a few fluctuations, it stabilized. Iceman said, "It can be used." Lei Xingfeng looked at the surrounding environment and said, "Is this considered a tropical rainforest?" The air was humid and warm. In the dense forest, some trees were hundreds of meters tall, and their trunks were even more than 10 meters in diameter. It was breathtaking. Thick vines hung down from the trees, forming a green curtain. Flocks of birds rose and fell in the forest. Gao Yi said, "We're coming." He looked back. The snowy mountain formed a white line in the sky. Iceman stood quietly behind him. A thick white fog rose from his body. Lei Xingfeng understood at a glance that Iceman's body was extremely cold. When it met the warm and humid air, it immediately turned into white fog. Gao Yi said, "A foam, put him into the mirror realm." Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "Yes, if he continues to stay outside, he will be an extremely obvious target. Leaving the extremely cold climate, Iceman will probably consume a lot of energy outside." Putting away Iceman, Lei Xingfeng released the blackbird. The blackbird circled in the air and landed on Xian Feng's shoulder, speaking with hidden bitterness. "Grandpa, ancestor, Lord, you finally thought of this bird. GA, this bird is about to suffocate to death. Wow, this is a good place, a good place." Caw. As he spoke, he became excited. Lei Xingfeng ignored him. Instead, he flew to the top of a big tree and looked around. Gao Yi flew to the top of the tree and said, "What are you looking at? There are only trees here. There is nothing else." Lei Xingfeng had a special instinct. He could see light that others could not. According to Lei Xingfeng's understanding, it was a treasure light. As long as something glowed, it was a good thing. This had been proven countless times. He had firmly believed in it. Therefore, whenever he went to a new place, he would use this ability to check the local situation. Gao Yi did not have such a heaven-defying ability. Therefore, in his eyes, this was a boundless and dense forest. As far as the eye could see, the green treetops undulated like ocean waves. Mist rose from the forest in the distance. Countless birds flew up and down, emitting a cacophony of cries. Occasionally, strange beast roars could be heard from the forest. It was unknown what kind of beast was roaring. However, in Lei Xingfeng's eyes, it was completely different. He saw a lot of light shining through the canopy. Of course, these lights were strong and weak. One of them was very strong. It was about 800 meters away from his position. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Can we fly here?" Gao Yi said, "Flying close to the canopy should not be a problem." Lei Xingfeng noticed that the sky was full of small birds. There were no large birds at all. He said, "Okay, got it." Gao Yi looked around. After a while, he said, "Where are we going?" This place was too unfamiliar. Lei Xingfeng had a map, but it was only a rough location. After a long time, he hesitated and said, "Although we have crossed the mountain range, it seems that we have reached the other end. Let's go to a place first." As he said this, he flew to the right, flying close to the canopy. The distance of 800 meters was covered in an instant. It was a huge ancient tree. The light shining from its roots penetrated through layers of obstacles and reached the top of the canopy. After Lei Xingfeng landed, he could not help but click his tongue in wonder. He did not know what kind of plant this was, but there was no doubt that there was something good in this root. Gao Yi followed him and asked, "What is it?" Lei Xingfeng said proudly, "There is a treasure." Gao Yi was confused. "Where? Where is it? What treasure? Why don't I see it?" Of course, he could not see it. Even Lei Xingfeng could not figure out what treasure it was. It was even more impossible for him to know. The black bird suddenly called out, "Baby, baby, where are you?" "Caw." Lei Xingfeng slapped the black bird off his shoulder and said, "Of all things to learn, why learn to be so wretched?" He did not know who the black bird was with in the mirror realm. It was not right to speak. The black bird immediately showed a pitiful expression. It circled a few times and spoke, "Bird was wrong, bird was wrong." As it spoke, it landed on Xian Feng's shoulder and tried to please him. "Master, bird was wrong." It was the first time Gao Yi had seen the black bird so mischievous. He said in surprise, "This bird, this mouth, it can really talk. It can talk better than anyone." The black bird said proudly, "Of course, sir. This bird can talk very well. Bird be greets, sir." This guy recognized people and spoke. Its intuition had always been very good. It had long noticed that Gao Yi was not ordinary, but it had never had a chance to flatter him. Now, it took the opportunity to talk. Gao Yi was stunned. After a while, he could not help but laugh. "Ha ha, you're called Birdbeard? That's really amazing," the blackbird said happily. Of course, amazing." Gao Yi asked, "A phone, where did you find this clown?" The blackbird was even more happy. A clown, a living treasure. This evaluation made it very satisfied. It said repeatedly, "Yes, yes, sir. This bird is a clown." Xianfeng laughed. This was truly a clown. However, he liked this bird quite a bit. Its antics made his life not so dull and boring. Gao Yi ignored the blackbird and said, "Right, where's the treasure?" Lei Xingfeng pointed to the roots of the tree and said, "Under the roots. As for what it is, I don't know." Gao Yi looked at the roots and then looked at Lei Xingfeng. He could not understand at all. "What do you mean? Why can't I understand? How do you know there is a treasure under the roots? This is too magical." The blackbird said, "It must be magical. This bird knows." Lei Xingfeng said, "Won't you know once you dig it up?" Gao Yi looked at the huge ancient tree and said, "Fortunately, we're cultivators. Otherwise, it wouldn't be easy to dig out this big tree." As he said this, he raised his hand and slapped the tree trunk. Then his body suddenly flew backwards. Lei Xingfeng obviously knew the power of this guy's palm. He instantly flashed far away. A palm mark appeared on the thick tree trunk. It was just an ordinary white dot, but in less than a second, the white dot suddenly spread out, spreading up and down the tree trunk. In just a dozen seconds, the huge ancient tree turned into a tree that looked like it was carved out of ice crystals. Cold and hot alternated, and a large amount of fog rose. Gao Yi smiled slightly. He raised his hand and pushed out another palm. A large illusory hand appeared and instantly smashed the ancient tree. Chapter 441. Boom! The entire tree immediately shattered, turning into ice cubes that filled the sky, flying in all directions and collapsing in an instant. This was the power of a cultivator's attack. Of course, as a Heaven Monarch realm expert, this kind of attack was really nothing. He pushed out another palm and instantly blew away the ice shards that piled up like a small mountain, revealing the roots of the ancient tree. Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "So violent." "Ha ha." Gao Yi said, "The simpler the method, the faster it is." As he spoke, he came to the roots of the tree and stuck his hand in. With a cracking sound, one of his hands had already sunk into the soil beside the roots. In an instant, a circle of white light flashed, and the ground immediately condensed into a thick ice block. Then he used his strength to lift it up, and an entire piece of soil and the roots of the ancient tree was revealed. He lightly shouted, "Open!" With a loud bang, the huge ice block was like a lid being opened. It was blasted to the side, revealing the soil underneath. In an instant, a red light flashed. This time, even Gao Yi could see it clearly. A red light penetrated through the soil. Gao Yi said in surprise, this red light is so strange. What is it?" Lei Xingfeng jumped into the pit and reached out to dig. After a while, he found a black object. It was a long strip about 2 feet long and as thick as an adult's arm. It was flat and emitted a scorching aura. Lei Xingfeng held it in his hand and felt that it was a little hot. Gao Yi frowned and said, "This thing, I don't like it." Lei Xingfeng jumped out of the pit and asked curiously, "Why don't you like it?" Gao Yi took a step back and said, "This thing gives me a very strong sense of threat." Lei Xingfeng played with this strange thing and said, "What a strange feeling. I have an impulse to kill." "Well, let Jingxia come out and take a look." As he spoke, he called Jingxia out. Jingxia said, "You called me for something?" Lei Xingfeng handed the black object to her and said, "Take a look. What is this?" Jingzia just touched it and immediately withdrew her hand. She said, "Use thunder and lightning to wash it. I am very familiar with this thing." It could be seen that she was also quite afraid. Lei Xingfeng's hand emitted a large amount of electric arcs, shining with dazzling light. As Lei Xingfeng increased the output of thunder and lightning, the black stick-like object emitted traces of red light. Although it was very faint, the three of them could hear it clearly. Pieces of the black substance fell down, and the red light it emitted became brighter and brighter. When a large amount of lightning was injected into it, the outer layer of the black stick completely peeled off, revealing the thing inside. Xianfeng's first impression was of an unparalleled visual impact. At first glance, it was a pure red, but upon closer inspection, one could see layers upon layers of different reds, each of them wriggling as if they were alive, or as if there were countless flames within them. He exclaimed, "So beautiful!" A sword seal. This is a fire attribute sword seal. Jingzia said with certainty. Gao Yi frowned and thought carefully. After a while, he said, "This is the first time I've heard of it. I've only heard of fire seals, lei yin, ice seals, and so on. I've never heard of sword seals. Is there anything special about sword seals?" Jingzia said, "Sword seals are the life weapons of high-level cultivators. Don't you know this?" Lei Xingfeng said with a wry smile, "I really don't know. Maybe the seals we condense are the most basic ones. My lei yin is mainly used to support the defense of the Thousand Leaves, Silver, and Thunder and Lightning attacks. Its greatest use is actually defense." Using lei yin for defense had become common knowledge after advancing to the sixth ring. Jingzia said, "Seals are the foundation of all cultivators. Only with this foundation can you use more methods. For example, this sword seal is the red glow sword seal. It can be considered a basic seal weapon. There are different forms. It depends on your preference." Lei Xingfeng said, "In other words, there will be knife seals, hammer seals, and even stick seals." Jingzia said, "Yes, that's what it means. It doesn't matter what kind of seal it is. What's important is that it can be used to enhance the function of the seal." Lei Xingfeng shook his head with a wry smile. He said, "I don't know how to refine this kind of seal." Jingzia said, "You can use this sword seal. However, it won't be as powerful as the one used by its original owner. After all, you didn't refine it, and it doesn't fit your lei yin. However, it won't be a problem to use it." Gao Yi said, "Can I use it?" Jingzia shook her head. "You're of the ice element, which opposes the fire element. You can't use it. If you're of the earth element or the wood element, you can use it. Only the water element and the ice element can't. Of course, if your strength is far greater than the original owner's, you can also use this sword seal. However, at that level, you won't bother to use it." Gao Yi said, "I knew it. However, I can use other elements. Weapon seals?" Jingzia said, "Of course. In fact, the best combination for the water element is the wood element. Unfortunately, you're of the ice element. It's a little difficult for you to use anything. You'll have to explore it yourself." Gao Yi said, "Forget it. Where can I find a weapon seal? Let alone experiment with it?" Lei Xingfeng said, "How do I use this thing?" Jingzia said in surprise, "You don't know? Just put it in your lei yin. It's not your life weapon. It's just alone." Of course, you'll have to wash it with thunder plasma and imbue it with your thunder element. That way, it'll be easier to use. Well, if you meet a cultivator of the fire element in the future, you can use it to exchange for something you need. Lei Xingfeng could clearly feel the scorching aura of the red afterglow sword seal, which was gushing out wave after wave from the sword seal. If it weren't for the Thunder handguard, his hand would have been burnt. With a slight thought, the red afterglow sword seal disappeared from his hand and reappeared in Lei Yin's hand in an instant. Immediately, wisps of flames appeared all over Lei Xingfeng's body. Then the red afterglow sword seal appeared in his hand again. Lei Xingfeng shouted, "It's burning me to death." Jing Zia said, "Didn't I tell you that you can only use it after washing it with thunder plasma?" Although Lei Xingfeng had been burned, he had learned a little about the characteristics of the red afterglow sword seal. He instinctively felt that the red afterglow sword seal contained a great power that his Lei Yin couldn't suppress at all. He said, "Well, I'll have a try, but I don't think I can suppress the red afterglow sword seal." Jing Zia said, "Of course your Lei Yin's level is lower than the red afterglow sword seal. It's strange that you can suppress it. I asked you to wash it with thunder plasma to form some kind of tacit understanding so that you can borrow the power of the red afterglow sword seal. Why do you want to suppress it?" Lei Xingfeng said a little embarrassedly, Well, I was a little impatient. Ha ha. He laughed awkwardly. Lei Xingfeng understood the skill of washing with thunder plasma. He turned his wrist, and a bottle appeared in his hand. He had collected a lot of thunder plasma in the magnetic storm mountains. There were about 10 drops of thunder plasma in this bottle, using the power of thunder and lightning to support the red afterglow sword seal. Lei Xingfeng threw a drop of thunder plasma from the bottle and guided it to the red afterglow sword seal. In an instant, countless electric arcs flashed, and the red afterglow sword seal emitted layers of flames. The flames were very thin and rolled on the surface of the red afterglow sword seal. They looked very beautiful, like layers of sunset clouds rolling and changing. The thunder and lightning penetrated the red afterglow sword seal little by little, and soon there were traces of silver light in the flames. Soon, the drop of thunder plasma disappeared. Lei Xingfeng carefully observed the red afterglow sword seal. He could see traces of thunder and lightning jumping in the first layer of flames. He threw out another drop of thunder plasma. Half an hour later, the bottle of thunder plasma was used up, but the red afterglow sword seal was only half washed. Jing Zia and Gao Yi kept watching and observing. At this time, Jing Zia said, "Not enough, far from enough." Gao Yi sighed with emotion. "It's really amazing. I wonder how powerful it is." Lei Xingfeng took out another bottle of thunder plasma and sprinkled it on the red afterglow sword seal, one drop after another. Gao Yi and Jing Zia watched very patiently. For the two of them, this was also a kind of experience. Gao Yi knew that thunder plasma and the ice marrow liquid he obtained were both treasures of the same attribute. If he obtained a similar weapon, he could also use the ice marrow liquid to wash it. It was just that the effect wouldn't be as good as Lei Xingfeng's thunder plasma. After using 17 bottles of thunder plasma, the red afterglow sword seal was finally washed completely. The more it was washed, the more thunder plasma it would need. According to Lei Xingfeng's observation, the outermost layer of flames could be washed completely with just one drop of thunder plasma. For the last layer, he actually needed 8 bottles of thunder plasma to wash it completely. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to penetrate so deep. After being washed by 17 bottles of thunder plasma, the red afterglow sword seal had already turned pale red. There were countless thin silver strands, which were the thunder and lightning in the flames. After combining the flames and the thunder and lightning, Lei Xingfeng said with a smile, "It's done." Jing Zia said, "Now you should be able to put it into your Lei Yin." Only then did Lei Xingfeng try to put the red afterglow sword seal into Lei Yin. In an instant, the red afterglow sword seal disappeared from his hand. This time, although he felt a wave of heat, his whole body was no longer emitting flames. Lei Yin contained a large amount of thunder plasma and some thunder plasma. When the red afterglow sword seal entered, Lei Yin began to violently change. This was an instinct. Because it wasn't a weapon of the same attribute, Lei Yin instinctively began to reject it. What made Lei Xingfeng feel very magical was that with the rejection, the red afterglow sword seal went through another round of washing. This time, under the strong interference of Lei Xingfeng, the red afterglow sword seal gradually stabilized. Gao Yi said curiously, "Try its power." Jing Zia hurriedly said, "Don't try it here. This is a forest. If the red afterglow sword seal is used, it will probably be destroyed." Gao Yi was shocked and said, "Indeed. Let's find a spacious place and try it again. It would be a pity to destroy this place." With the strength of a heaven monarch, a simple attack would be enough to destroy this forest even without using the red afterglow sword seal. That would be a pity. This forest nurtured many precious herbs and spirit herbs. Lei Xingfeng said, "Actually, I don't have the confidence to use it. I just put it into Lei Yin, and it is not stable enough. I need some time to get used to it." Gao Yi and Jing Zia also realized that this was indeed not a suitable time to use the red afterglow sword seal. Gao Yi said, "All right, let's continue. This is not a place to stay for long." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "Let's go. This place should not be far from our destination." Chapter 442. Along the way, with Lei Xingfeng's unique vision, they found a lot of precious spiritual herbs. Many of them were things that Gao Yi had never seen before. Sometimes he felt very strange. He had lived on this continent for much longer than Lei Xingfeng, but he had never been so lucky. Gao Yi couldn't help but mutter, "It's really strange. How do you know so many spiritual herbs?" The black bird suddenly blurted out, "Good luck." It had heard this sentence countless times, so it just blurted it out without any hesitation. Gao Yi smiled bitterly. "Luck, it's really luck. Why don't I have it?" Lei Xingfeng laughed and said, "You do. Hee hee. Your luck is that you met me." Before Gao Yi could speak, the black bird took the lead and laughed twice. Gao Yi said seriously, "That's right. Your good luck is my good luck." The black bird said, "It's also bird's luck." Unfortunately, as soon as it said this, it was glared at by Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi. The black bird was still very unconvinced and said, "Isn't it? Isn't it? It's just bird's luck." Lei Xingfeng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Bird's luck was just no luck. He said, "Shut up." The black bird muttered, "You're bullying birds again." Gao Yi heard it and couldn't help but laugh. He said, "That's good. You're bullying birds again. Ha!" Jing Zia said expressionlessly, "It's not the first time." Lei Xingfeng said, Well, birdbeard, if you say it again, I'll tie your mouth." The black bird was immediately frightened. Its mouth was sharp, so of course it could be tied up. So it was frightened and directly hid its head in its wings, not daring to show it again. Gao Yi looked at the black bird in surprise and said, "Is this how it dodges?" Lei Xingfeng turned his head and looked at the black bird on his shoulder. He held back his laughter and said, "Yes, when it pretends to be dead, it hides its head in its wings. Sometimes I think it's very cute like this." Gao Yi glanced at the black bird and said, "It's pretty fun." He had to admit that the black bird was rather cute at this moment. The black bird's body trembled. Of course, it had heard the conversation between the two, but it cursed in its heart. "Since when are birds cute? Since when was it fun? You two bastards mockingbirds." However, it no longer dared to say it out loud. It could not afford to offend either of these two fellows, so it might as well continue to play dead. Gao Yi laughed. "Interesting. Playing dead again. Ha ha." Lei Xingfeng said, Let's go, let's find an open space and test the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal. I'm very curious about how powerful this thing is. Gao Yi said, yes, and we'll also look for your little sister's secret door. Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, okay. The two of them led Jingxia all the way down. After passing through a forest, several low hills appeared. Gao Yi looked around and pointed to a huge rock more than 30 meters high in the distance. Try it with that thing. It was a huge rock that was 200 to 300 meters long and more than 30 meters high. It looked like a crouching tiger. There were many trees growing in the cracks of the rock. The dark rock was particularly conspicuous in the sparse forest. Lei Xingfeng stared at the huge rock and said with a smile, this is a good target. The two of them quickly approached. Jingxia said, the vegetation here is also very lush, but we can already take precautions. She pointed to Gao Yi. It should be known that Gao Yi was an ice cultivator, so he was very suitable to extinguish the fire. Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to fly high in the sky. Instead, he flew about 5 or 6 meters above the ground and hovered there. He stared at the huge rock for a moment and said, let me try the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal. The Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal was in Lei Yin's hand. In this short period of time, Lei Xingfeng could clearly feel the thunder and lightning constantly cleansing the sword seal. Unfortunately, the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal was not of the thunder attribute. Otherwise, it could be directly integrated into Lei Yin's body, and its power would definitely be stronger than the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal. Intuitively, Lei Xingfeng believed that the power of the Scarlet Afterglow Sword Seal was not bad. As for how good it was, he needed to test it. After a moment of contemplation, Lei Xingfeng said, Uncle Gao, take Jingxia and retreat to the back. Gao Yi and Jingxia retreated and stared at the huge rock not far away. Gao Yi said with a smile, okay, you can use your sword now. Lei Xingfeng lightly shouted, Qi! In an instant, Lei Yin emerged. A red light flew out along with bits of silver stars. In the blink of an eye, the red light emitted scorching flames and suddenly spread out. 100-meter-long fiery red shadow was pulled out of Lei Yin's body, twisting and pouncing on the rock. The red shadow was extremely fast. In an instant, it was already close to the rock. The red shadow instantly turned into a real flame mixed with jumping electric arcs, shining with a dazzling brilliance. Boom! The sword seal chopped on the rock. The dark rock unexpectedly flickered with a red light. With the bombardment of the flame and lightning, the whole rock immediately collapsed. A heat wave spread out, and the surrounding trees and low shrubs were immediately set ablaze. Gao Yi immediately took action. His ice seal flew out, and countless ice crystals fell from the sky and struck down in an instant. The density of the ice crystals was like a rainstorm, immediately enveloping a radius of 1,000 meters. Under the bombardment of the ice crystals, the fire was completely extinguished before it could spread out. Lei Xingfeng cheered. Good. He knew that if the fire spread out, it would be very difficult even for him to extinguish it. Gao Yi said, let's go and take a look. This sword seal is a bit powerful. The middle part of the huge rock had completely disappeared, leaving only the two ends of the rock. The 300-meter-long rock was missing about 100 meters in the middle. Lei Xingfeng was also a bit dumbfounded. This power was a bit too strong. His previous methods were not worth mentioning. This kind of attack was truly fatal. Gao Yi sighed and said, not bad power, but it's too scattered. Lei Xingfeng said, yes, it's not enough control. I can only use my full strength to attack, but I can't control it accurately. If it's used against a large group of enemies, this move should be very powerful. But against 1 or 2 people, it's a waste. It's very difficult to use this move continuously. Gao Yi said, "This requires time to adjust and explore. It's a pity that I can refine my own sword seal. It's a pity that I don't have the relevant cultivation method." Lei Xingfeng said, "I'll find it." He thought of those places in the magnetic storm mountain range that he still couldn't enter. His intuition told him that there must be something he needed there. Jingzia said, "It's not ideal. This power is a bit weak. As far as I know, the sword seal is much more powerful." Lei Xingfeng said, "This is already very good. It's much stronger than my previous methods. I need time to explore. When I refine my own thunder sword seal, I won't need to use the red mist sword seal anymore." Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi chatted for a while. Lei Xingfeng was quite satisfied with the power of the sword seal. Even though Jingzia looked down on it, Lei Xingfeng was still very happy. This weapon was a bit beyond his expectations. Gao Yi said, "Your sister's secret door should be nearby." "A phone. We don't have enough people." Lei Xingfeng nodded and said, "It's okay. I'll find someone to help." With the mirror realm, he could bring a group of people with him and ask for help at any time. Lei Xingfeng summoned a group of about 20 people from the mirror realm. Lei Xingfeng quickly assigned them tasks and gave them a message card. Then he said, "Split up and search. Once you find her, send a signal immediately." The group of guards immediately dispersed. They already had a rough location, so the direction of the search was very clear. 3 days later, Lei Xingfeng found the secret door where his sister was. It was a very simple camp located in a forest. If it weren't for the 20 or so guards searching for her, it would be very easy to miss. Lei Xingyao didn't expect Lei Xingfeng to find her. She was very worried because she couldn't go back. Begging her master was useless, and even her master couldn't do anything. So during this time, the little girl was very depressed. She didn't expect Lei Xingfeng to find her. The moment she saw Lei Xingfeng, her tears didn't stop. "Brother, I thought I would never see you again." "Woo-woo." Lei Xingfeng hugged his sister helplessly and said, "Don't cry, don't cry." "Look, I found you." Gao Yi looked at them with a smile. It was the first time he saw Lei Xingfeng so flustered. Lei Xingyao cried and said, "Yi can't be found. Brother can't be found either." "Woo-woo, I am scared." Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't be scared. I'm here. Yi is here too." Lei Xingyao was surprised and said, "Yi is here too? Wow, that's great. You found Yi." Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Yes, Yi went to the magnetic storm mountain to practice. Don't worry. If he wants to come back, it'll be easy." When they found the camp of the secret sect where Lei Xingfeng was, Lei Xingfeng put his subordinates into the mirror world. He said, "Sister, why are you living here? It's too shabby." When Lei Xingyao saw her brother and learned that Yi was fine, she suddenly became a different person. After crying, her face was full of smiles. She pulled Lei Xingfeng and went up a huge old tree. There was a shabby wooden house built on top of it. The other members of the secret sect were scattered in the forest. Most of them lived in tree houses like this. Since it was a forest, and the disciples of Lei Xingyao's sect were mostly wood cultivators, this was the most suitable place for them to live. Gao Yi and Jingzia followed them into the tree house. Lei Xingyao said, "Grandma, my brother is here." Yan Xiaoqing smiled and said, "Good, good." She finally breathed a sigh of relief. During this time, Lei Xingyao was gloomy, which made her heart ache. She didn't know how to comfort her. Finally, she saw the little girl's smiling face. She was very happy. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "Grandma, you've worked hard." Yan Xiaoqing smiled and said, "You flatter me. Everyone, sit down. This is..." She looked at Gao Yi and instinctively felt threatened. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "This is Gao Yi, Uncle Gao, the Lord of Heaven." Yan Shaoqing was shocked. She was a Lord of Heaven. However, she was a fake Lord of Heaven. She was only a little stronger than a ninth ring sage. When she heard that Gao Yi was a Lord of Heaven, she couldn't sit still. She stood up and said, "Greetings, Senior." Gao Yi didn't want to put on airs. He knew that this old man was Lei Xingfeng's guard and should be very close to the little girl. This little girl was Lei Xingfeng's lifeblood. He said, "You're welcome. I'm good friends with a Feng and also a member of his family. Yes, we're family." Chapter 443. Lei Xingfeng said, "Don't be so polite. Grandma, Uncle Gao is family." Yan Shaoqing looked at Jingzia and asked curiously, "Who is she?" Jingzia said coldly, "Jingzia." Yan Shaoqing opened her mouth, but swallowed her words. She felt that Jingzia wasn't human, but she couldn't say it. Xian Yao looked at Gao Yi and Jingzia curiously. She knew that anyone who followed her brother was very powerful. She stepped forward and said, "Hello, Uncle Gao, Sister Jingzia." Gao Yi said, "And this is for you." He summoned Iceman and said, "This is an ice doll for you." It was the first time Xian Yao saw Iceman. She said, "Wow, it's all white mist." Large amounts of white mist rose from Iceman's body. Yan Shaoqing glanced at it and said, "Good stuff, Yao Yao. This thing will be of great help to you." In addition to various methods, the temperature control was also a kind of knowledge. With Iceman's help, Xian Yao had obtained a low-temperature equipment. Xian Yao immediately understood the reason behind it and immediately bowed. "Thank you, Uncle Gao. Yao Yao likes this gift." Gao Yi carefully taught Xian Yao how to control Iceman and then smiled. "This thing isn't very useful to me. Its power is average and can't help me much, but it's more useful to you." Lei Xingfeng said, "You don't have to put it outside. You can put it in the hidden Luan space. The climate here is warm. It's not suitable for Iceman to stay for long." Lei Xian Yao had received the silver and gold level mannequins from Xian Feng before, so she quickly learned how to control the Iceman and put it into her hidden Luan space as instructed. Lei Xingfeng noticed that Xian Yao had reached the ninth ring sage level. He smiled. "Yao Yao, when did you reach the ninth ring sage level? That's amazing." Although Xian Yao hadn't reached the peak of the ninth ring sage level, this speed of advancement was already very fast. Yan Shaoqing said, "Our girl is very hardworking. She usually only rests and cultivates. She rarely plays." Xian Feng understood that the reason why Xian Yao worked so hard was to not be a burden to him, hoping that he could become stronger. He rubbed Xian Yao's head out of habit and said, "Yao Yao, don't be too tired. You still need to play." Xian Yao smiled. "Brother, I'm not tired. Our ancestors said that when we find with techniques, we can change our techniques. Then we won't have to work so hard." Gao said, "Techniques from the forbidden area?" Lei Xian Yao nodded. "And yes, Master and Ancestor both went to the forbidden area. They even invited a few powerful experts. That forbidden area was built by wood-attributed practitioners." Yan Shaoqing said, "It's called Green Forest Hall. The restrictions are quite strong. We were all warned not to go out until they come back." Lei Xingfeng knew that the most powerful person in Xian Yao's secret sect was Luo Yeruo. She was a Tao lord, an extremely powerful person. Even Wu Yong had to be respectful when he saw her. Xian Yao's master was also a Tao lord. Yan Luo was an expert on the same level as Wu Yong. In Xin Yao's secret sect, wood elemental cultivators had the highest status, followed by wood elemental cultivators. and then other elemental cultivators. Generally speaking, it was very difficult for other elemental cultivators to reach the level of monarch. Most of them were ninth ring sage, unable to progress any further. This secret sect was heaven for wood elemental cultivators. Lei Xingfeng said, yeah, are there no experts guarding here? Yan Shaoqing said, it's fine. There are no strong beasts or star beasts in this area. The ancestral master has already scouted this area. As long as we stay in the camp, there won't be any danger. Gao Yi shook his head slightly. You're too careless. This world looks harmless, but if something happens, it'll be a big deal. Even your elders don't know much about this place. Having lived on this continent for so many years, he was well aware of the dangers here. Many cultivators, even those with decent strength, would be confused by the tranquility of this place and eventually die without knowing why. Yan Shaoqing didn't care. As long as we don't run around, there won't be too much danger. After the elders left, the disciples in the camp all stopped their daily activities. As long as we don't go out, and this place has already been scouted, there shouldn't be any danger. Gao Yi shook his head and didn't continue. There were some things that were useless even if he said too much. Not provoking didn't mean that nothing would provoke them. He muttered, "You guys are lucky." Lei Xingfeng asked, "That's right, that Qing Sun Hall, what kind of place is it?" Yan Shaoqing said, "It's a forbidden area." The ancestral master obtained a star python record that recorded the location of Qing Sin Hall in the forbidden area. It said that it's a place passed down from ancient times. It's very likely that there's a wood attribute cultivation method there. It's just that the place is completely sealed, so we have to find a way to break the seal and enter. Lei Xingyao nodded. Yes. For the sake of Qing Sun Hall, the ancestral master specially found many experts to go with him. Lei Xingfeng said, "Is it the ancestral master Luo Yeruo?" Lei Xingyao said, "And yes, the ancestral master was very happy. He said that if we can find a wood attribute cultivation method, our hidden sect will be able to develop greatly." The importance of a cultivation method was self-evident. Once it was obtained, the entire hidden sect would benefit. At this time, the hidden sect had already realized that they were weak and that there was a huge problem with their cultivation method. Yan Shaoqing and Lei Xingyao both revealed expressions of joy, especially Lei Xingyao. She was a pure wood attribute cultivator, just like Lei Xingfeng. Once she obtained a cultivation method from this place, even if it was a basic one, her cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. After Lei Xingfeng finished cultivating the basic lightning attribute cultivation method, he directly rushed to the level of a Sky Monarch expert. This was a chance for the hidden sect, a chance for development. Whoever obtained, it would stand at the top of the hidden sect. It was no wonder that Luo Yeruo didn't even care about her own hidden sect and gathered a group of experts to Qing Sun Hall. Not only did Lei Xingfeng and the others understand this, but Luo Yeruo also understood it. As a Dao monarch ancestor, she knew better than anyone that if they wanted to continue moving forward, they had to have great strength. Lei Xingfeng said, "I hope the ancestral master can succeed." In addition to strength, obtaining a cultivation method depended more on luck. Sometimes one didn't even need to put in much effort to obtain the cultivation method they needed. Of course, there were also people who spent a lot of time and energy and paid all kinds of prices, but still failed. This was because their luck was too bad. He hoped that Luo Yeruo's luck would be better. Lei Xingyao waved her small fist and said, "She will definitely succeed. I believe in the ancestral master. She is omnipotent." Yan Shaoqing suddenly stared at Lei Xingfeng. She was a little puzzled and said, "A Feng, Why can't I see through your cultivation? You have advanced to true monarch. Gao Yi said, a foam is now a sky monarch expert. Yan Shaoqing was immediately dumbfounded. Even Lei Xingyao couldn't close her small mouth. After a while, Yan Shaoqing said, how is that possible? How long has it been? Lei Xingfeng said, I found the basic thunder cultivation method because the cultivation method here is too advanced. As long as I can cultivate it, it is not surprising that I can become a true monarch or sky monarch. This is only the basic cultivation method. Yan Shaoqing said, oh my God, no wonder the ancestral master didn't care about us and wanted to go to Qingxin Hall. The local cultivation method is so powerful. Their luck was too good. Their secret sect had been here for a while and finally found their target. This was also thanks to the power of the ancestral master. A Tao monarch was definitely a top secret sect. There was no doubt about its ability, but even so, they were still inferior to Lei Xingfeng. Lei Xingfeng had already cultivated the local cultivation method, and it was a cultivation method that was compatible with his attribute. Lei Xingyao hugged Lei Xingfeng's arm and said happily, wow, brother is already a sky monarch. Isn't this the same as master? This is great. If anyone dares to bully me, I will use brother to beat him. Lei Xingfeng suddenly felt dizzy. He said, I don't mind if you want me to fight, but don't use brother to beat people. Your brother is not a knife. Lei Xingyao said coquettishly, it's all the same, hee. Xian Feng finally let go of the last bit of heaviness in his heart. Although the migration was rushed, he still managed to find his grandpa and little sister. With the help of the mirror world, he didn't have to separate anymore. Even if he did, with the mirror world, there wouldn't be any problems. With the mirror world and a safe home, Lei Xingfeng completely let go of the burden in his heart. In the future, he would pursue higher cultivation and greater power. He didn't know how many dangers there would be in the future, but he knew very well that his own strength was the best weapon. Lei Xingfeng said, Grandma, I have something to say to Yaya. Gao Yi stood up and said, I'll go downstairs. Yan Shaoqing could only stand up and leave. She said, okay, I'll leave too. They were all smart people. They knew that the brother and sister had something to talk about that couldn't be said to outsiders. Lei Xingyao didn't stop them. Seeing Gao Yi and Yan Shaoqing leave the treehouse, she whispered, Brother, what's the matter? Lei Xingfeng didn't delay. He held Lei Xingyao's hand and instantly returned to the mirror world. The surrounding scenery suddenly changed. Lei Xingyao said in surprise, what is this place? Because Lei Xingfeng was beside her, she didn't panic. She was especially surprised and curious. According to her understanding, this should be a place similar to the secret hidden space, but it was different from what she knew. Lei Xingfeng laughed. This is the mirror world. Lei Xingyao's knowledge was not as good as Lei Xingfeng's, so she didn't have any concept of the mirror world. She said, Mirror world? What's that? Brother, is it the secret hidden space? Lei Xingfeng said, no, it's not the secret hidden space. The secret hidden space has a fixed entrance. Once it's formed, it can't be moved. The mirror world can be moved. Its strong point is that we can go in and out of it at any time. The biggest advantage is that we can use the mirror world to meet at any time. Of course, we can also use the mirror world as an escape route. Lei Xingyao reacted at this time. She said happily, Brother, does that mean I can come back at any time? Lei Xingfeng laughed. That's right. That means our whole family can meet at any time. The most important thing is that this is the best place to hide. I'll give you the right to enter at any time. Chapter 444. Lei Xian, Yao asked, Can I bring people in? Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, no problem, but you can only bring in 3 people at most, no more than that." As he spoke, he gave the authority to Lei Xian Yao and said, "Yao Yao, I'll arrange a courtyard and house for you. You can design it yourself when you have time." The mirror world was Lei Xingfeng's real home. With the mirror world, everything would be stable, and he would be able to come and go as he wished, especially with the old man Thunderstorm and little sister Lei Xian Yao. He didn't have to worry about their safety, and the family could live and practice wholeheartedly. As for where they could go, he didn't care at all. He could bring his home with him, and he could come back whenever he wanted. And the best thing was that this home was the best place to protect them. He brought Lei Xian Yao around the mirror world, mainly to the newly built house, and also to meet the people in the mirror world and give them some instructions. In the future, Lei Xian Yao would also be one of the masters of the mirror world. Other than that, he also brought Xian Yao to look at the newly built cultivation garden. There were all sorts of rare plants inside, causing Xian Yao to be extremely shocked. There were many spiritual herbs that even she had never seen before. It must be known that when Xian Feng picked herbs, he used his precious light to differentiate them. Although he tried his best to learn how to differentiate rare plants, his knowledge was limited, and there were many that he didn't recognize. However, by using his precious light to differentiate, he wouldn't miss anything and picked many strange spiritual herbs. Soon, Lei Xingfeng brought Lei Xian Yao back to the treehouse. Lei Xian Yao sighed, "It's so convenient." As she spoke, she tried to go back, and then go back to the treehouse. She became very familiar with it after a few times. Lei Xingfeng then called Gao Yi and Yan Shaoqing up to the treehouse. Yan Shaoqing's expression was a bit strange. She couldn't understand what this pair of brother and sister were whispering to each other for so long. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi quickly left the camp. The two didn't stay for long. The next day, Lei Xingfeng left, which made Yan Shaoqing feel very strange. Lei Xingfeng traveled a long way to find this place. He should have stayed for a few days, but Lei Xingfeng left without hesitation. And the strangest thing was that Lei Xian Yao didn't have any reluctance at all. She happily sent her brother off. This made Yan Shaoqing puzzled. She didn't know how to ask. After Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi left, she finally couldn't help but ask, "Yao Yao, why did your brother leave so quickly?" Lei Xian Yao laughed. She said, "She was not in a hurry. She could go back whenever she wanted. Why was she in a hurry?" She was very relaxed, very happy. It was a happiness that Yan Shaoqing couldn't understand. Lei Xingfeng and Gao Yi didn't go far from the camp before the two returned to the mirror world. It was convenient to return to the camp from there. Through the mirror world, Lei Xingfeng directly returned to the camp where his secret door was, while Gao Yi went to the ice palace. Previously, he had to accompany Lei Xingfeng to find his sister, so he resisted the urge to continue exploring. But now that he had time, he obviously wouldn't just wait at the camp. He returned to the ice palace through the mirror world. This time, Lei Xingfeng didn't accompany him, since Gao Yi could hide in the mirror world and avoid the most dangerous areas if there was danger, which meant he had the right to explore again. When he returned to the camp, he saw Jean Daya and Mad Eagle. Lei Xingfeng asked curiously, "Why are you guys back?" Jean Daya smiled. "I brought a group of people back. I thought you were at the camp, but there was no one. When I returned to the mirror world, you weren't there, so I could only wait here." He was one of the few people who could use the mirror world, so it wasn't strange that he could come here. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Who did you bring?" Jean Daya said, "They're all peripheral members that we took in before, low-level practitioners. There's no point in leaving them in the original place, so I decided to bring them to the mirror world. We're short of people anyway." Mad Eagle said, "The original continent is becoming more and more unsuitable for people to live in. The group of newcomers made it a mess. If this continues, the secret hidden space won't be interesting anymore. The environment is much worse. After all, it's affected by the continent. Lei Xingfeng knew that as he left the continent, sooner or later, he would have to give up the original secret, hidden space. The mirror world also consumed energy. He said, "Okay, leave a few people to guard the secret, hidden space. The rest of you return to the mirror world." He had to make a choice. Even if he had the mirror world, it wasn't omnipotent. The original continent was indeed unsuitable for practitioners, so there was no point in staying. Lei Xingfeng originally wanted to leave some people in the secret hidden space, but now it seemed that it wasn't very meaningful. The mirror world was still recovering, and it needed to slowly accumulate energy. It also needed people to move around in it. The growth of all kinds of plants also provided a lot of energy to the mirror world. At this time, the mirror world finally came alive, not as lifeless as before. The entire mirror world seemed to be full of vitality. Of course, there weren't many people now, and they were all gathered in a few villages. If Lei Xingfeng opened the entire mirror world to the hidden sect, it would be even more lively. After arranging the accommodations for the newcomers, Lei Xingfeng led Jean Daya and Mad Eagle out of the mirror world. The hidden sect's camp on the mainland was already very lively. A large number of people had arrived, and large areas of farmland had been opened. It was even more lively than the mirror world. When they arrived at Wu Yang's residence, Lei Xingfeng asked, "Uncle AI, is the founder still here?" When AI 8 saw Lei Xingfeng, he immediately smiled and said politely, "A phone, he's here. He just came back a few days ago. He asked about you yesterday. Where have you been?" Lei Xingfeng nodded and said to Jean Daya and Mad Eagle, "You guys wait here. I'll go in first." AI Pa Dao said, "Come with me. There's a place for you to rest." As Lei Xingfeng's status rose, he became more polite to Lei Xingfeng's subordinates. Lei Xingfeng walked into the backyard. Wu Yang lived in the house in the backyard. He walked into the house with ease and saw Wu Yang and Guqi sitting together with Feng Qinzong. Lei Xingfeng was surprised. This was a gathering of the upper echelons of the hidden sect. Now, there were only 3 experts in the hidden sect, including himself. When Wu Yang saw Lei Xingfeng come in, he couldn't help but smile. "I was just talking about you. Come and sit. It's not easy to find you now. You come and go like a ghost." Lei Xingfeng laughed. "Of course. With the mirror realm, it's very convenient to go anywhere." Because after becoming a sky monarch, he didn't want to hide it anymore. For a hidden sect, the mirror realm was a moving secret space. It had unparalleled value, especially in these turbulent times. He knew this very well. Wu Yang and Guqi stood up at the same time. Their faces were full of shock. This was too frightening. They all knew what the mirror realm was. Once this thing appeared and news spread, it would cause a storm of blood. They didn't know how Lei Xingfeng got his hands on it. Really? Guqi couldn't help but doubt. He couldn't believe that such a heaven-defying treasure could be obtained. This was something from legends. Wu Yang said, "Take us to see it." Feng Qinzong was very curious. "What's the mirror realm?" He was Guqi's eldest disciple, the first to become a monarch. But compared to Lei Xingfeng, he was much worse. Whether it was talent or luck, the two couldn't be compared. He also had less experience. Guqi said, "The mirror realm is a moving secret space. The method to refine it has long been lost. It's an item passed down from ancient times. It's extremely rare. With the mirror realm, you have a moving home. The benefits are hard to imagine." Wu Yang said, "The biggest benefit is that it's the best place to escape. It's also the best transit station. No matter where you go, you can return to the mirror realm at any time. Then, through the mirror realm, you can go anywhere you want. The premise is that you've been there before. As the number of people in the mirror realm increases, the more places you go, the more transit stations there will be. It's equivalent to a large transportation hub. A phone, quickly take us to see it. Lei Xingfeng didn't refuse. This time, he wanted to let Wu Yang know that he had the mirror realm. He had some concerns before, but after becoming a monarch, those concerns disappeared. He was confident that he could control the mirror realm. He took Wu Yang, Guqi, and Feng Qinzong directly into the mirror realm. Lei Xingfeng controlled the mirror realm and could bring people in and out at will. The others had to obtain authorization to do so. In an instant, the scene before Wu Yang and the others changed. They appeared in Lei Xingfeng's courtyard. Wu Yang felt it for a moment and said, Good place. Guqi said, it's similar to the secret hidden space. We finally have a real base. Ha! A phone. We're finally out of danger. The current camp was built in the forbidden area, but there were many hidden dangers. Whether it was Wu Yang or Guqi, they were both nervous and uneasy. Who knew what dangers there would be? The hidden sects couldn't withstand too many twists and turns. With the mirror realm, most people would have a safe place to hide. This place was truly safe. Lei Xingfeng took Wu Yang and the others to tour the mirror realm. When Wu Yang saw the steel dolls and metal spiders, he was amazed. These things were a kind of fighting force. They didn't fear death and were the best cannon fodder. Wu Yang said, A phone, we need to set up a large warehouse in the mirror realm. Many of the hidden sects' shared assets need to be stored there. Lei Xingfeng agreed. Ancestor, no problem. Guqi said, the people outside the camp will have to move in, and the camp's farmland can be abandoned after one season. We can also grow food here. Lei Xingfeng said, and there's a lot of empty space here. It's enough for our hidden sects. There's also a large portion that can only be used for planting trees. The mirror realm was very large. It wasn't much smaller than the original secret hidden space. There were only a few thousand people in the hidden sects. Most of them were ordinary people, the family members of the hidden sect's disciples. After walking around, Lei Xingfeng gave Wu Yang, Guqi, and Feng Qinzong the right to enter. Since the three of them had their own hidden sects, they could also bring people in. However, there was a limit to the number of people they could bring in. They couldn't be like Lei Xingfeng, who could bring in as many people as he wanted. Chapter 445. Just like that, Wu Yang, Guqi, and Feng Qinzong were all very satisfied. With the mirror realm, they dared to explore the forbidden land. After leaving the mirror realm, Wu Yang immediately sent people to gather the direct disciples and began to assign tasks. There was no place for them to live in the mirror realm, so they had to rebuild it. Therefore, most of the people in the camp had to enter the mirror realm, leaving only a few behind to look after the camp. After a few days of busy work, most of the people entered the mirror realm and began to build villages. The direct disciples also began to build their own residences. With the mirror realm, Wu Yang, Guqi, and Feng Qinzong planned to explore the Forbidden Land again. This time, they planned to go deep into the Forbidden Land's core area. No matter what, now that they had a way out, the three of them became bolder. On this day, Wu Yang, Guqi, and Feng Qinzong were all in the courtyard of Lei Xingfeng's residence. They sat in a spacious wooden shed with all kinds of exquisite dishes on the table. The four of them ate and chatted. Wu Yang said, I left some coordinates of the places I've been to. A phone, you can use them too. We'll record the places we've been to and form a transportation network. In the future, we don't have to go to places one by one. As long as someone from the secret sect has been to a place, others can go there too. This saves a lot of time. Guqi said, Yes, I also left a lot of coordinates, but not as many as the places your founder has been to. Lei Xingfeng said, I found two good places. One is the magnetic storm mountain, and the other is the ice palace. It's a good place for lightning attribute cultivation and ice attribute cultivation. I think there should be other good places for cultivation here. It's just that we haven't found them yet. Wu Yang said, "Yes, I'm also looking for such a treasure land. So far, I haven't found it. This place is too big. It's impossible to travel far without a few months' time. Especially since we can't fly recklessly here, we can't travel far. But this time, with the Mirror Realm, we can set off far away and come back at any time. This is really important. In fact, Wu Yang and the others could use the secret door to go back and forth, but it would not be as convenient as using the Mirror Realm. After all, the coordinates that the secret door could accommodate were limited, unlike the Mirror Realm, which could accommodate almost unlimited coordinates. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Ancestor, is there any news from the Dawn Continent?" Wu Yang shook his head and said, "There's no news from the Dawn Continent. Almost everyone has retreated here. The bridgehead there has been abandoned. Our secret sect's strength isn't enough to open a passage to the Dawn Continent, let alone develop it. The natives there are stronger than us. Let's see if there's a passage out here." Gucci added, "Many Dao Lords are looking for a way out. Once they find one, they'll let us know." Lei Xingfeng said, "So the Dawn Continent has been completely abandoned." Wu Yang smiled. "That should be the case. But if we can't find a way out here, we still have to return to the Dawn Continent. About the Mirror Realm, our secret sect must keep it a secret. We can't let any news out. The Mirror Realm is enough to attract the greed of Dao Lords. Although we're not afraid, it's very troublesome." Gucci said, "That's right. We have to remind everyone of this." No, we have to warn everyone not to leak anything. If anyone dares to leak anything, they'll be kicked out immediately. I'll take care of this." Feng Qinzong said, "This time, a friend invited me to explore a forbidden area. At first, I was hesitant, but with the Mirror Realm, I want to take a look." Wu Yang said, "You're going together?" Feng Qinzong nodded. "Yes, and 2 monarchs. We'll go together." Wu Yang said, "If there's any danger, are you going to bring them into the Mirror Realm?" Feng Qinzong was stunned. He held his forehead. This, Wu Yang scolded, "That's bullshasterous tea. If you bring people into the Mirror Realm, the news will be leaked immediately. Can't you use your brain?" Feng Qinzong smiled bitterly and shook his head. "Yes, I was careless. Forget it. I won't go." He broke out in a cold sweat just thinking about it. Going together was always a friend. If they were in danger, should he save them or not? He couldn't just run away and leave his friends to die. That wasn't his personality. It would be unwise to go this time. Lei Xingfeng smiled. "Let's organize our own people to explore. It's not suitable for us to bring outsiders unless they join us." Wu Yang nodded. "That's right. Feng, the Mirror Realm should be able to connect directly to the original hidden space, right?" Lei Xingfeng said, "Yes, but if we leave the outer realm, it'll be difficult to connect to the hidden space. It'll take a lot of energy. It's not worth it." Wu Yang said, "That's good. As long as we can still connect, it's better than having our own hidden door. I think there are still some people left on their original continents. We can ask them to bring them over. We have too few people, especially ordinary people and low-level cultivators." Gucci said, "If we didn't have the Mirror Realm, I wouldn't have any ideas. Now that we have it, our hidden door needs to have a good foundation. Gathering people is a must." They wanted to make the Mirror Realm into a self-sufficient base. Lei Xingfeng understood that opening the hidden door and searching for a new world meant that this base was very important. It meant that they had the most reliable support. No matter how hard they fought, there would always be a warm place to rest behind them. Soon, The hidden door's upper echelons reached an agreement. Feng Qinzong was responsible for the migration. He needed to bring a group of people back to the hidden space and organize a team to find suitable people to migrate to the mainland. Some of the sects that had been abandoned on the mainland had to be recontacted and brought with them some people. The initial number was about 10,000 people. While they were chatting, lightning suddenly flashed in the courtyard. Elder Thunderstorm suddenly appeared in the courtyard. Lei Xingfeng hurriedly stood up. Yi is back. Elder Thunderstorm's appearance caused an unparalleled pressure to appear. Wu Yang, Guqi, and Feng Qinzong were all surprised. Following Elder Thunderstorm's laughter, the enormous pressure gradually dissipated. The flashing lightning in the courtyard also dissipated bit by bit, revealing Elder Thunderstorm's true body. Wu Yang muttered to himself, "Good heavens, another Monarch Realm expert." Guqi said, "How is this possible?" Thunderstorm smiled. "Everyone's here. Feng, I'm back." Then he strode into the wooden shed. Lei Xingfeng said happily, "Yi, you did it." Thunderstorm smiled proudly. "Of course, if I didn't succeed, I would have died in the magnetic storm mountains. Haha, my luck is good. I made it through." If it wasn't for Lei Xingfeng giving him a large amount of thunder plasma, he wouldn't have succeeded so easily. Because he had enough thunder plasma, he used the most barbaric method to forcefully cultivate the most basic technique. This allowed him to be completely reborn, eliminating some of the hidden dangers left behind in the past. Because he succeeded, Thunderstorm's lifespan was extended again. This made Elder Thunderstorm very happy. At least he felt that he could still protect his grandchildren. Wu Yang smiled. "Congratulations, congratulations." Guqi also said, "Brother, congratulations. I didn't expect our hidden sect to have another great expert." Thunderstorm said, "It was just luck, just luck." Everyone could hear the joy in Elder Thunderstorm's words. Thinking about it, to be able to directly reach the Monarch realm from a 9th ring sage was a big deal. Lei Xingfeng sighed. Just the basic technique can reach the level of a Monarch realm expert. I wonder how powerful the experts in the Forbidden Area are. We seem to have lost a lot of effective cultivation methods. When I saw eldest senior brother reach the Monarch realm, it was really difficult. Compared to the cultivation methods here, the difference is too big. Wu Yang said, "You might not be cultivating the basic technique. Without a certain level, you can't cultivate the technique of the magnetic storm mountains. You'll be killed by lightning if you go in." Lei Xingfeng said, "And the real basic technique is probably at the same level as us. This should be the advanced version of the basic technique. It should be a transition. It's very different from our cultivation system." Wu Yang said, "I wonder what awaits us in front." He was also a little lost. He used to think that the continent where the secret chamber was located was the real place for cultivators. Now, it seemed that he had made the wrong choice. Relatively speaking, he was a more conservative person, which meant that he was more concerned about his family. He did not want his disciples to take risks. Guqi was also confused. His originally stable life had become more and more unstable. Luckily, Lei Xingfeng got the mirror world. Otherwise, he would be even more uncertain. Although the hidden sect didn't lose any disciples, he knew that if they continued, they would inevitably encounter danger. He was similar to Wu Yang. They were both very protective and very caring. The entire hidden sect was their home. Losing any disciples was something he couldn't bear. Feng Qinzong left the courtyard. He had to organize people to return to the hidden space and start the migration. Lei Xingfeng asked, "Ancestor, how's your advancement?" Wu Yang sighed. "I don't want to use the original method to advance. I hope to find a suitable cultivation technique. Seeing Lei Xingfeng and Thunderstorm's advancement, especially Lei Xingfeng's, gave him the idea of looking for a forbidden area to cultivate. He now understood that there was a big problem with the cultivation technique he was cultivating. Someone as amazing as him wouldn't be satisfied with mediocrity. He could cultivate to the peak of the heavenly monarch realm with a mediocre cultivation technique. If he changed his cultivation technique, he was confident that he could become a Tao monarch. If he could get a forbidden areas cultivation technique, Wu Yang was even confident that he could advance further. The only problem was that he couldn't find a suitable cultivation technique. It required time, effort, and manpower. Because of the large forbidden areas, not many people dared to go there. Even Tao monarchs didn't dare to set foot in the core areas. But now it was different. With the mirror world, he could go to the core areas. If there was any danger, he just had to hide in the mirror world. Chapter 446. Lei Xingfeng said, "Ancestor, let's go." Wu Yang said, "It's not that easy." "Oh, right, a phone. Come with me." Gucci also reacted and laughed. "Yes, let a phone go with us. This kid's luck is unbelievable." "Ha ha." Thunderstorm also laughed. "This kid's luck is really good. A phone. You go with Ancestor." Lei Xingfeng nodded. He didn't know many forbidden areas, but Wu Yang was different. He knew a lot of big forbidden areas. He didn't dare to go before, but now that he had the mirror world, his courage grew. Gucci said, "I'll go with you." "Brother, are you coming too?" Thunderstorm shook his head. "I'll rest for a while, then go to the magnetic storm mountains. I want to find a way to enter the back of the mountains. I think there should be intermediate or advanced cultivation techniques there." Gucci nodded. "That's good. It's good to have an expert at home." Wu Yang asked, "Gao Yi isn't in the mirror world." Lei Xingfeng said, "Uncle Gao is looking for a suitable cultivation technique. We found an ice palace that suits his attribute, but we haven't found a cultivation technique yet, so he stayed in the ice palace to explore." Wu Yang and Gucci looked envious. Wu Yang said, "Damn, everyone can find a suitable forbidden area, but I can't. Ah, this luck." Gucci said, "I'm even more determined to let a phone go with us." "Ha ha, I believe that a phone will find it." Lei Xingfeng sweated. He said, "Ah, Master, you can't say that. The pressure is too great." Wu Yang, Gucci, and Thunderstorm laughed. Wu Yang said, "With pressure comes motivation. A phone, it's all up to you this time." Lei Xingfeng shamelessly said, "Then I won't go. I can't take it. If I can't find a suitable cultivation technique for Grandmaster, what am I going to do? I won't go." Wu Yang immediately comforted him. "It's okay. If you can't find it, the patriarch won't blame you. As long as you go, everything will be fine. In fact, we've already found a big forbidden area, but we didn't dare to go deep. This time, the three of us will go together. Anyway, if we can't get through, we'll go back to the mirror realm and start again." Gucci also said, "A phone. No one will blame you if you can't find it. We've been searching for a long time, but we haven't found anything big. The main reason is that we can't go deep. This time, with the mirror realm, we should have a big harvest." Wu Yang said, "Yeah, I never thought that a phone would be able to find such a treasure. The mirror realm, it's really hard to imagine." Lei Xingfeng came to Thunderstorm's side and whispered, "Ah Yi, little sister has obtained the right to enter and exit the mirror realm. If she needs anything in the future, she can come in at any time. Ah Yi, when you stay in the mirror realm, be careful. Little sister might come back at any time." Thunderstorm said happily, "We found little sister's secret door." "That's great. Our family can finally reunite at any time." Thunderstorm then sighed. Finally, we have a decent home. Lei Xingfeng sighed in his heart. Since leaving Tiger Cliff Castle, he finally had a home that he could come and go freely. Moreover, this was a super big family. Lei Xingfeng had never been so satisfied in his previous life or this life. Although the people in this family were always running around, Lei Xingfeng could still come back. Just this point alone made Lei Xingfeng cherish it very much. Ishanel came in and said, Feng, the new house is ready. It's just next door. There are 2 houses in total. It's already decorated. This was the house that Lei Xingfeng had prepared for Yi and little sister. The construction had been arranged long ago, and it was only recently completed. Lei Xingfeng laughed. Yi, I prepared a house for you. The left is little sister's, and the right is Ye's. Thunderstorm didn't mind where they lived, but he was very happy that his grandson had thought of this. Wu Yang said, Feng, where's our house? Lei Xingfeng laughed. Founder, you have to build it yourself. Wu Yang sighed. Really, the founder is not as good as Yi. Feng is more biased. Gucci laughed. Master, you're jealous. Wu Yang said, No, I'm not. I'm not convinced. We're all in the same generation, but Feng definitely treats us differently. Lei Xingfeng raised his hands in surrender. Okay, I'll build it. Wu Yang laughed. That's more like it, hee hee. Gucci laughed. Ha! Master, you have the nerve to bully my disciple. Wu Yang glared at him and said, Your disciple is my disciple. So what? You're not convinced? With the master pressuring the disciple could only surrender. Gucci mimicked Xi and Feng and raised his hands. I surrender. I dare not surrender. Wu Yang laughed proudly and said, Haha, little guy, just don't talk nonsense. He had no choice. If the master wanted to be shameless, the disciple really couldn't do anything about it. Lei Bao laughed and left, returning to his own house. Worry said, We're leaving too. Feng, you rest for a few days. When we're ready, we'll go to the Forbidden Grounds together. Lei Xingfeng nodded in agreement. This wasn't something he could refuse, and he didn't want to. It wasn't easy to find a forbidden area on the mainland. Now that there was a forbidden area, of course, he wanted to join in the fun. With the Mirror Realm, he was confident that he could benefit from the forbidden area. This was the best place to accumulate strength. Once he left, it would be difficult to find a place like this again. Jean Dia and Mad Eagle followed Feng Qinzong back to the hidden space. Their mission was to help Feng Qinzong transfer people. This was a secret mission, and there were Yin rings as a reward. Of course, the 2 didn't need Yin rings as much right now because Lei Xingfeng had provided enough. A few days later, Lei Xingfeng met up with the ancestral master. The 3 of them had finished their preparations and were just waiting to depart. Wu Yang said, This time, we'll leave through the Mirror Realm and see how it goes. He knew a lot of places. If they left from the camp outside, it would take a few months. Now, they could reach their destination directly with the Mirror Realm. The 3 of them left the Mirror Realm. Lei Xingfeng asked, What is this place? Wu Yang said, Extermination Plains. This place is called Extermination Plains. It's a large forbidden area, and it's well preserved. Dao lords have come to explore before, but they didn't dare to go too deep. The restrictions are still intact, and it's very risky to enter. Lei Xingfeng said, Extermination Plains' great forbidden area? Gucci smiled. That's right. I've only wandered around the periphery a few times, but I didn't dare to go too deep. Wu Yang said, You've been here before. Gucci said, Yeah, I've been here before. This place is very famous. I came here with a few friends, but when we encountered the first restriction, we left. We didn't dare to touch it at all. Wu Yang said, The outer restriction can be broken through, but once you enter, the restriction's power will chase after you. It's very hard to avoid. Without a certain level of strength, you can't block it at all. It's very wise of you not to go in. Gucci said, "Yeah, I saw that something was wrong, so I left immediately." Wu Yang said, "Let's go. I'll take you to a weak point in the restriction. It'll be easier to enter from there." There was a dense forest here. In the large forbidden area, no one dared to fly. They didn't even dare to fly close to the trees. They could only walk on the ground. Lei Xingfeng walked at the front. He held a huge machete in his hand and chopped through the dense thorns and branches. Wu Yang pointed out the direction, and the three of them trudged through the forest with difficulty. They didn't know how many years it had been since anyone came to this forest. The dense forest almost took up all the space. In the forest, it was dark and quiet. There were no large beasts here, but there were all kinds of small animals. There were also countless poisonous insects and snakes. Along the way, Lei Xingfeng couldn't remember how many snakes had tried to bite him. Unfortunately, Lei Xingfeng wasn't an ordinary person. As soon as those snakes got close, they were immediately sent flying by the electric arcs that emerged from Lei Xingfeng's body. Lei Xingfeng waved his huge machete. With one chop, broken branches and leaves flew everywhere. He said, "Ancestor, this path is very difficult. Did we go the wrong way?" Boom! A muffled sound came from not far away. Lei Xingfeng stopped. He said, "What's wrong?" Wu Yang's face darkened. He said, "Someone's entering the first restriction." Gucci said, "Should we wait for a while? Avoid them for now?" Wu Yang said, "No need. Let's go." He ran past Lei Xingfeng. In an instant, the surrounding trees and thorns were all shattered. He ran forward wildly. Lei Xingfeng muttered, "I've been chopping for half a day. Isn't it tiring?" He put away his machete and ran forward with Wu Yang. The three of them ran quickly through the forest. After a while, they saw flashes and vibrations in front of them. Wu Yang suddenly stopped. He raised his hand and signaled for them to stop. Lei Xingfeng came to his side. He said, "Who is it?" Wu Yang said, "I don't know. There are two people." Lei Xingfeng looked over. A few hundred meters away, a large area of the forest was destroyed. The ground was covered with broken tree trunks and leaves. It was a mess. However, this also broadened his field of vision. He could clearly see the two people attacking. Lei Xingfeng whispered, "Ancestor, do you know them?" Wu Yang shook his head. "No, they seem very strong. I hope they're not Tao monarchs. If they were Tao monarchs, even the three of them together might not be a match for them." Therefore, once they confirmed that they were Tao monarchs, he would not hesitate to take them back to the mirror world. Gucci said, "They went in." Lei Xingfeng said, "That person is of the wind attribute. He's so powerful." Wu Yang said, "Yes, he should be at the peak of the heavenly monarch realm. I can't see through the person beside him. I don't know if he's a Tao monarch. We should be careful." Peak heavenly monarch was about the same as Wu Yang. If it was a Tao monarch, once there was a conflict, the three of them would have no chance. They could only escape. Of course, with the mirror world, they were not particularly afraid of Tao monarchs. Wu Yang thought for a moment and said, "Let's go in from another place. If we go in from here, we'll meet them sooner or later." There were always plenty of people who entered the great forbidden ground, but there were many who entered the first layer of restriction, and very few who entered the second layer. Those who could enter the second layer were at least peak stage heaven monarchs. The outer perimeter of the great forbidden ground had basically been explored, and only the inner circle was the real juicy meat. Everyone wanted to take a bite, but not everyone had such good teeth. There were too many people who had broken their teeth. Chapter 447. Gucci said, "Yeah, let's go somewhere else. Damn it, very few people come here. We haven't even entered yet, and we've already seen 2 people." The 3 of them turned around and walked all the way down along the outer circle. Wu Yang said, "That place just now wasn't the real weak point. With one look, we can tell that those 2 people have never been here before. They must have heard the news from others and came here." Lei Xingfeng sighed. "I thought I was pretty strong, but I didn't know until I went outside that there's always someone better than me. Alas, we're still far from it. Just one restriction is enough to make us helpless, not to mention the other traps." Wu Yang said, "This restriction can't stop us. Actually, some powerful restrictions aren't dangerous. As long as you can't break them, you'll be fine. But if you break them, you'll be in trouble." Lei Xingfeng smiled. "If we go in, it'll be full of traps or puppets." Wu Yang said, "Puppets are nothing. The main thing is the various restrictions and traps. Those things are more troublesome. If we're not careful, we'll be trapped inside. Even a heavenly monarch realm expert can be trapped and die." Lei Xingfeng knew this very well. Whether it was the secret door of a Tao Lord or a heavenly monarch, it couldn't be opened under some powerful restrictions. This highlighted the value of the mirror realm. The mirror realm could almost ignore the restrictions of restrictions and open the secret door to leave at will. About 2 hours later, the 3 came to a gentle slope. Wu Yang said, "This is a weak point. I'll open it. You don't have to come in. Once I'm there, I'll take you in through the mirror realm." Boom! Wu Yang fiercely slammed his head into it. In an instant, his whole body emitted traces of white light. He actually slammed into the restriction and disappeared in a few breaths. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. "Has the founder always been so fierce?" Wu Yang said, "This place, your founder is used to it. He's probably been here many times. This level of restriction is no longer a threat." Lei Xingfeng said, "All right, let's return to the mirror realm." The 2 of them suddenly disappeared. A moment later, Wu Yang led Lei Xingfeng and Gucci into the restriction. Lei Xingfeng smiled and said, "This saves a lot of effort." Not only would it save effort, but it would also save a lot of risk. Lei Xingfeng had an idea. He said, "We will explore separately. If there is any danger that we cannot handle, we will return to the mirror realm and wait for the others to come back. Of course, it must be a valuable place." Wu Yang applauded and said, "That's a good idea. The forbidden area is very big. If we walk all the way, the area we explore will be too small. This way, we can discover as much as possible." Gucci didn't have any objections. Lei Xingfeng said, "I have some steel dolls here. I'll give you some. If there are some dangerous places, you can use them to explore. Even if they are destroyed, you won't feel bad." Lei Xingfeng transferred a few dozen steel dolls to Wu Yang and Gucci. He also transferred 6 metal spiders. These things weren't strong, but they had thick skin and could be used as shields to delay the enemy's movements. They were very good substitutes. They could at least buy a few seconds for their owners. With this buffer time, they would be able to return to the mirror realm. Wu Yang and Gucci put the steel dolls and metal spiders into their hidden Luan spaces. There was no need to use them now. They would only be released when needed. The 3 of them quickly separated and walked in different directions. After walking for a while, Lei Xingfeng immediately released Jingxia and 2 gold dolls. He also released a steel dolls to scout ahead. He wasn't stupid enough to walk in front. Who knew what would be ahead? This road wasn't really a road anymore. There were still some broken stone slabs on the ground. Dense weeds completely covered the road. The only thing that confirmed it was a road was the tall trees on the side of the road. The original road had a solid foundation, so most of it was covered in weeds and small trees. This made it obvious. Lei Xingfeng could tell that it was a road. The steel puppet beast walked forward step by step, creating loud rumbling sounds. This thing was too heavy, and every step it took created a hole in the ground. Lei Xingfeng and Jingxia were about 30 meters away from the steel dolls. They watched as the steel dolls moved forward. Boom! In an instant, the steel dolls disappeared, leaving behind a dazzling light. When the light dissipated, nothing was left. Lei Xingfeng was stunned. He said, "What's that?" "Jingxia, did you see it clearly?" Jingxia shook her head and said, "No, I didn't see it clearly. I don't know what it is." This time, Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to move. He said, "Then release another steel dolls." "I don't believe that I can't see it clearly." Jingxia said, "Okay." Xian Feng immediately released a steel mannequin beast and pointed with his finger, "Follow it and walk forward." The steel dolls didn't care about life or death. They only listened to orders. They took big steps and walked forward. Very quickly, they arrived at the place where the steel mannequin beast had disappeared. Xian Feng and Jingxia both stared fixedly, wanting to see what kind of thing could instantly kill a steel mannequin beast. Lei Xingfeng and Jingxia looked at each other. They didn't expect the steel dolls to pass by without any accidents. Lei Xingfeng said with a wry smile, "What's this?" Jingxia knew more about restrictions than Lei Xingfeng. She said, "This is a one-time restriction. It's too insidious. They put a one-time killing restriction on the road. Even I would be at a disadvantage if I encountered it." Lei Xingfeng couldn't help but click his tongue. There's such a restriction? It's too deceptive. He was thinking about something else. If he encountered such a trap, it would be fine if he could resist it. But what if he couldn't? He believed that he wouldn't have time to escape to the mirror world when he saw the one-time restriction just now. Lei Xingfeng understood that the big forbidden areas were much more dangerous than the small ones. Jingxia said, "This restriction must have been set up by an expert." Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go. The steel dolls have gone down." As he said that, he walked forward quickly. With the steel dolls as cannon fodder, Lei Xingfeng didn't care about this kind of trap. Anyway, losing a few steel dolls was nothing to him. He had obtained a large number of steel dolls, and now he had people who specialized in repairing them. Soon, a large flat area appeared. It was a square paved with huge stone slabs. However, countless weeds grew from the gaps between the slabs, forming a grid. At first glance, it looked very neat. Behind it were countless collapsed houses, and a few half-collapsed defensive towers could be faintly seen. Lei Xingfeng had seen a lot of such towers, and he knew that there were often steel dolls and energy crystals in them. As for the collapsed houses, Lei Xingfeng knew that there was basically nothing there. After such a long time, he knew that when the people of this low-level residential area left, they basically took everything with them. Only the higher-ups would leave behind valuable things because they didn't care. This was also the key reason why everyone wanted to enter the core area after entering the forbidden area. Only there could they find useful things there. The two of them looked at each other and ran toward the tower together. After a while, they arrived at the half-collapsed tower. Jingxia ordered the steel dolls to enter, and Lei Xingfeng followed. Lei Xingfeng looked at the clean ground and couldn't help but touch his nose. He smiled bitterly and said, "It seems that we are late. Even if there were things, they were taken away. Not even a strand of hair is left." Jingxia said, "This is a big forbidden area. We may not be able to enter the core area, but who knows how many people have come to the periphery. Even if there were any treasures, they would have been taken away long ago." There isn't much to gain here. She still had a straight face and didn't smile. Lei Xingfeng had long been accustomed to this. After all, she was a doll, not a person. Yes, even if there are relics in the periphery, they are not worth searching. Let's continue. The two of them didn't delay and continued to go deeper. The steel dolls were still leading the way. Soon, the road ahead disappeared and a lush forest appeared in front of them. The steel dolls stopped. They didn't know where to go. There were dense trees in front of them. Lei Xingfeng and Jingzia walked to the side of the steel dolls. Lei Xingfeng said, "There is no road." He looked around for a moment and said, "Strange, there is no fork in the road." "There is no road," Jingzia said. "The only reason is that this is the road to a certain destination. Since we are here, there is naturally no road." Lei Xingfeng's spirit was lifted. He said, "That's right. So, the secret is in the forest?" Jingzia said, "It should be so." Lei Xingfeng didn't dare to fly up. He came to a big tree and climbed up nimbly. Soon, he reached the top of the tree and looked into the depths of the forest. Countless lights of treasures shone through the forest. Lei Xingfeng said in surprise, "Oh my God, there is a treasure!" He was very familiar with this kind of light. He didn't know when it started, but his eyes could see through everything. As long as there was a treasure, he would know clearly. It was this eyesight that had brought him countless benefits. Sliding down from the tree, Lei Xingfeng said, "Let's go in. There should be a lot of good things here." Jingzia asked, "What is it?" Lei Xingfeng said, "I don't know what it is, but it must be a good treasure." Jingzia looked at Lei Xingfeng speechlessly. His words were a bit unreliable. However, since it was Lei Xingfeng who said it, she had to listen to him regardless of whether it was reliable or not. She said, "Okay, let's go in. Let the steel dolls go first." Lei Xingfeng didn't object to this. He said, "Okay, I will take another steel dolls. One is not enough." He released another steel dolls. This one carried a huge axe in its hand and walked into the forest first. It walked in a straight line. When it encountered a big tree, it chopped it down with a few strokes of its axe. No matter whether it was a big or small tree, it was chopped down. Another steel dolls cleaned up behind it. Its speed wasn't fast, but it wasn't slow either. The steel mannequin beast's strength was incomparably great. A tree as thick as a person's arm could be chopped down in 2 to 3 strikes. As for a tree as thick as a water bucket, it could be chopped down with a single strike. Rumbling sounds of trees collapsing filled the air as the steel mannequin beast forcefully opened a path through the dense forest. Although it wasn't easy to walk, it didn't hinder Xian Feng and Jingzia's progress. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.